All right, guys. Last class we dabbled into some more CSS stuffs that has to do with intermediate CSS. We looked at some properties that you can set. We talked about let me go back, how competing styles are resolved in CSS. And I explained the concept of the cascading style sheets, how styling cascades from the top to bottom. And we also looked at some examples of when you are trying to set styles and you're trying to target some specific elements on the page. So we looked at a typical example like this, where we have 3 list elements and we are setting the colors to be green for all of them. And as we can see, the color is going to attach or is going to be applied to all list elements found on the page. So we have all the list elements showing in green. And then we looked at another example whereby we change one of those list elements by inline styling method, the color to red. And what we get to see is that apart from that single element that has an inline styling, the other ones would appear in red, and the other ones will appear in red and in green, and only that which has the inline styling would appear in red. I believe we all know why by now, if either we were in the class or we've watched the video. It is because inline styling takes precedence over an external and an internal styling method. Then we explained the 4 concepts that we have in, or the 4 categories that we have in cascading. One of them is position, which means styling are applied to elements by their position. So going by Abiodun's rule, obey the last command. So when it comes to positioning, the last style that is set would be applied to the elements. We also talked about specificity and how the styling methods have specificity over another or have precedence over an order. We talked about the fact that the inline elements has more priority. The ID has more priority than the attribute type, than the class type, and than the element type. So we did an example or some examples to show this. We also talked about this type that sometimes, which I already talked about, sometimes you may need to have all the methods in a single sheet. Like you may have an external style sheet, you may also have an internal, at the same time you may have an inline style, depending on the project you're working on. But whenever you have this, you have to know that the inline styling would always take precedence. Then we talked about the importance, which I call the cheat code, because this one would override any of all the previous methods, regardless of their position, regardless of specificity or type. And that we use this most of the time when we're not able to figure out what is wrong with our styling and we need something to work quickly. It's not the best, but it solves problem whenever we need it. And we also said that this their order of precedence increases from top to bottom. So along this line, yeah. We did some in-class exercises and people did well. A lot of people were able to explain why they chose what they chose. And we did a hands-on. That was, I think, where we stopped that class. And then we moved into CSS selectors. We talked about selectors before we ended the class, how we can combine selectors to target a specific element instead of having multiple classes and IDs and attributes. Because once you get to start writing bulky codes, having multiple classes and all that becomes confusing. Even you run out of class names and it's really, really going to be messy. So the best way to write a clean code that works effectively is to know how to combine selectors. So we did look at a couple of them. We looked at the group type, we looked at the child type, where you can target the child of another selector, which happens to be the parent. We also looked at the descendants type, where you can target descendants and ancestors, depending on which elements you want to apply the styling to. While I was explaining all this, we had this example that we were updating to explain each of these combinations. And we ended this on the combining combiners, which we also had an example on that. Today, we are going to be looking at CSS position. But before I jump to CSS position, is there anybody who has a question on the previous one as regards whether CSS selector combinations or those specificity and all that we discussed about in 5 minutes before I jump into positions? Okay. Okay, so if there are no questions, we would move into today's class. And today's class is going to be about CSS positions. And we'll be looking at 4 types of positions, the 4 types of positioning we have in CSS in web development. These are relative position, absolute position, fixed position, and static positioning. I'm sure a lot of us would have heard about relative and absolute before when we're talking about path. It's more or less the same thing. The meaning is still the same, except that now it's going to be relative to something else, right? So we'll be looking at that. Now, why are we talking about CSS positions? So when you build a website, there are a couple of times you want to move some element into a particular position on the screen. Normal CSS would not be able to do that for you. You need to know how to use positioning in CSS to move things around. There are times you want an element to stay static, regardless of whether you scroll up or you scroll down on the page. You just want that particular element to be static in one place. So these are situations where you may need to apply the positioning system. There are times you want to overlap elements on one another and you want them to show like that. You want to set an element at a specific distance from another one. Of course, if somebody might think, what about margin? Yeah, you can use margin as well, but sometimes margin does not do the job. Why? Because margin creates extra space. It creates, every time you add margin to an element, it creates that extra space of margin for you. But sometimes you want to move elements in relatively to another, but you don't want to have an extra space. You just want that element to move around on its own. Then you would need to use the CSS position. Now, how do we use these positions? From the diagram you guys see here, they kind of give a little bit of explanation on what these things means, but I would go into them individually. So like I said, we have the static, we have relative, absolute, and fixed. And apart from the static, every other one are position element, which means the relative, the absolute, and the fixed, they are referencing a point. So what that means is for you to move an element, whether using the relative method, the absolute method, or the fixed method, you are moving them in relative to a particular point on the page, on the screen. And how you do that, we are going to see. So let's take the first one, the static position. The static position is actually the HTML default flow. What that means is that even if you don't set a static positioning on your element, all elements you write in your HTML code by default are assuming the static position. Okay? All HTML elements you write on your HTML code, they assume a static position. So whether you state or whether you define a static position on them or not, they are actually static. Now, what does this mean and how does it look on a web page? Let's look at a typical example website that I have here. So this is the website, it's a demo website to explain these concepts. And you can see I have static, I have relative, I have absolute, I have fixed positioning, and I'm going to use this to explain all of that. So here, I'm going to make this bigger, just in case you're not able to see it clearly. So now I'm right now on the static positioning. What that means, like I said, it's a default position for every element on the page. So the element we're looking at here is going to be this green box. Now, we can see that there is static positioning text here, and there is other coding text around here, but this element is actually located or positioned immediately after the first two things we have here. So the first block is static positioning, the second block is this code, and then the green box that I'm talking about. But when you are set, for you to set, if you really want to set it, you have to set something called position on the CSS, and I'm going to try that for you. On the CSS, you're going to set position property and then set it as static. Then you can set whether the left distance or the top distance. Now, what this left and top means is that you want to set the distance from the, if you say left is 50 pixels, you're saying move this element from the left of the screen on that screen, wherever it is, move it 50 pixels from the left. So it means move it towards the right. And top 50 means that instead of this element to align to the exact top, like touching the top of the page, push it down a little bit by 50 pixels. So when you set top 50 pixels, you're saying give a clearance of 50 pixels from the top. Now, if I inspect this page, you guys will, I'll send this link to you guys. I want, if you can, to open this thing while I explain. So I'm pasting it on learning resources. You have the link to this website on learning resources channel. If you can copy that and open it on your browser, because I want to do some inspection here to explain this better, guys. This class is going to be a bit dull today. I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, I'm seeing Guido. Okay. I think I'll ask a lot of questions here today so that I can engage everybody before you guys will sleep on me. Okay. So I want to inspect this page to be able to explain this better to you guys. You remember the last class, or maybe the class before, I asked you guys to download something called to install something called, where is it? Pesticide for Chrome. And I told you guys that we're going to be using, it's easy for you to use that to inspect your CSS or even your HTML, your code in general. So I'm going to use that pesticide today to inspect this page. And how do I use it actually? Right now you can see that because I already activated pesticide, if you do on your side as well, if you go to where you have pesticide, click on it, it should activate this. Now you can see when I over on this, it shows that this is actually a div. The whole thing is a div. And there's another text here. There are texts here, and there's this box. Now, how do you even see this better? If you hold down Control on your keyboard and you hover your mouse on each of these, it will tell you what element you are hovering on. So if I hold down my Control, right now it says you are hovering on body, you are hovering on, you can see you're hovering on node is body, classes and ID, nothing. But if I move my mouse to my cursor to the green box, it says you're hovering on node is div, classes, box, and so it means this is a div. And if I move it on this text, it says you're hovering on node is h2 and classes and ID. So it says that this is an h2 element and all that. Now, what we're explaining here is that this box is positioned statically. So it's going to stay there. And by the definition of the left and the top, it gives that distance already. And that's why you have it right here. So again, whether you state that position should be static or not, it is still going to be static. It is going to be at this position. So it is a default position for every element that you write on an HTML. Now, how do you actually define this in a real coding scenario? So let's do a typical example.
My pesticide is not working the same. Not sure why.
So did you, just a moment. So if you are on your browser, if you open the website, first you need to do is to go to the plugins, which is this icon here, if you can see that. If you click on that icon, you look for pesticide around here. Once you see pesticide, click on it. It must be added to the first top of the list here. So here.
Yeah, I did that, but when I hover on it, that stuff at the bottom that says what you're doing, I don't.
Okay, when you hover on it, do you see the elements changing colors like this?
Yeah.
Okay, then hold down your control button on your laptop. And
Okay.
then
I still don't have the panel.
you don't have this bottom side.
Right. Okay, I see it now.
Same here, same experience here too.
Okay. Okay, it means your pesticide might not have been activated. So, okay, what you can do is
Control, not commando.
control, not command, control.
I said I was doing command, it wasn't working.
No, you should do control. That's why I mentioned control. Regardless of your OS, it should be control.
Okay.
Does it work now with control?
Yeah.
Okay, and I mean,
It's not working with my own control, yeah.
what OS are you on?
It's a Mac.
Okay, before if when you did not press the control, if you hover your mouse on it, on this element, do they show like my own?
Have you done the pesticide part?
Yeah, I said yes. When I'm hovering on it, it's actually taking the green away and showing the white like yours is doing too.
Okay, but now hold down the controller and now move the mouse again on them.
No, I'm actually not seeing those things at the bottom.
Okay, don't worry. Don't worry about that right now. Let's continue. It's just the way to show this. Maybe on break, I can look at your screen.
Okay. Sorry, sir.
Yes.
Sorry, sir. Yeah. So for me to view the codes and all, do I have to press my control down and over on it?
Yes, you hold it. Just hold down.
Hold down the control.
Yes, I know. I'm saying so. If I want to, so I must always hold down. Like there is nothing that there is nothing that will make it for me just to hover on it and to show the code automatically without pressing my control.
I don't think so. You have to hold down the control and move your mouse on any of the elements to see what you're actually viewing at that instance of time. Yeah.
All right. No problem, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So I want to demo the static parts. So I'm just going to create a demo HTML and CSS. So let me do that here. Index1.html. So here I have this, and I'm going to do my boilerplate. And I would just have a div. And that's all. I'll just have a div, and I'll create a style. And I'll grab the div elements. I'll give it a width of 300 pixels and a height of 300 pixels. I'll give it a color of green or background color. If I preview this, we have this green element here. Okay, so you can see even without setting the position on this div element, it actually assumed the topmost part of the page, right? Now, if I set a position on this and I call it, if I set a position and I set static, you can see that nothing would change. Why? Because like I said, the static position is a default position for every element. Regardless of whether you set it or not, they will take a static position. But if I now need to move this element around, this div element around, then I can set top. Let's say top to be 100 pixels. And I can set left to be 100 pixels as well. Now, we see that this still would not move. Why? Because it is static. But one thing is this 100 pixel top and left would take effect only when there are other elements on the page. So What this is saying is that by default, all elements are positioned statically. They don't move. Even when you try to move them, they don't move until they are referencing another element on the same page. So basically, we would not use static positioning most of the time because it is assumed that the elements are taking that static position by default. When we now need to move elements around themselves, that's when we need to come in with the rest of the other positioning types. So for now, before I explain the other ones, I don't want to move this right now because we are talking about static. When we get to the other ones, then I will move and we can come back to this. So right now, take it that static elements are by default static. Whether you set the element static, the position static or not, they are still going to remove. Even if you position it to 1000 pixels, they are not going to move. Why? Because they have to remain static until they are referencing another element on the page. And how you see that is when we get to the other types. So for these, yes?
So is it like if you want to set the position, you also need to do the top and left thing, or?
Yes. Yes, so you can do top, left, right, or bottom, whichever way. It depends on how you want to move that thing around. But if you have set the position to be static, then you need more properties to set to be able to move it if it is static. Otherwise, you would use the other types of positioning, which we're going to talk about. Does that make sense?
Not yet.
Okay, it's fine. Right now, it's going to be static. I'm going to take this out. Just take it that static is the position that the element would take or would assume by default, whether you set it or not. And it's always going to be to the top of the page, to the farmost top and farmost left, like the starting of that page, until otherwise you state some other properties, which we are going to see. So if you look at this website that I was showing, static positioning shows that this element is actually coming after every other thing or every other element on this page. And if you inspect this code, if I go into the elements, you can see that we have a header, we have this, we have that, we have the main. Inside the main, we have some other divs. We have the button, we have the position type static, and this is the one we are looking at. So inside this, we have the static positioning text, we have the code part, and this is the code part. And then we have the box, which is this one. And that's the element we are looking at. So you can see that it is directly after all this. Now, where this change is what you're going to see when I move to the next one. So for the next one, which is relative. So this one would position the element relative to a default position. So it would move the element relative to a default position. Now, looking at this image here, this was the element originally. And when you set a relative position on that element, and you now set the left and the top, it pushes it with reference to where it was before. It pushes it down and to the right. So when you set top, it pushes it down. And when you set left, it pushes it to the right. So this is what relative positioning means. And if I go back to this website again, if I click on relative positioning, you can see that on this relative, the position has been changed to relative. Okay, and now setting left to be 50 pixels and top to be 50 pixels, it pushes the elements down compared to what we had here. So you can see when we had static positioning, even though there was left 50 pixels, top 50 pixels, it never moved. Why? Because the position was static, just by the meaning of the word, static. And the moment we change that positioning to relative, using the same 50 pixel top and left, you can see that the elements have moved away from its original position. So where's my right part? I can't write. Okay, so naturally it was here and it has moved from here to this point. So this is what is explained here in this image. And to practicalize that, if I go back into the code and I change this to relative, and I change this to relative.
Latas, sorry, Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the relative now,
Mhm.
once the parameters are imputed, it will not shift the order. Probably you are having like three elements on the same page.
Mhm.
So if you now impute the values, it will only overlap the existing one. It will not push them.
Exactly. Exactly. So you remember when we were talking about margin? When you set margin, let's say margin to be 50 pixels, it pushes every element around that element by 50, right? Pixels.
Yes.
But when
Yes.
you use positioning and you're setting relative, it does not push the surrounding element. Rather, it will move that particular element by whatever you say, whether by 50 pixels. So right now I'm setting 50 pixel, 50 pixel. It moved this element by 50 pixel from the top and by 50 pixel from the left. And that's why you can see that we now have more spaces here and here. Is someone talking? Okay. So yeah, so setting and the position now as relative would now cause this element to move with reference to its default position. So I want to emphasize on that word. With reference to its default position. Initially, its default position was here. So when it was static, you can see its default position. This is the original position for every element you add on that page. Now, the moment you set the relative positioning, it moves with reference to this point away by whatever you set. So in this case, we're setting 50-50, left and top 50. And once we say this is relative, it pushes it 50-50. Now, if I set this to be right, if it is not left, if I set it to be right, you can see that it moves this element away from our page.
Okay, overflow.
It moved it away from the page because now the positioning or the shifting is coming from the right, not from the left like before. If I change this to bottom,
Goes up.
it pushes it up. Okay, so this is something that you guys are going to try a couple of times to really understand how these properties work and how to set them properly to achieve whatever you want to achieve on the page. But remember that if there are elements around this particular one, instead of pushing them away, it would overlap those elements. And we're going to see in some of the examples I'm going to be showing you today. So this is when you now change the positioning to relative. Now we've talked about static, we've talked about relative positioning. The third one is the absolute positioning, and that is going to be a position relative to the nearest position ancestor or top left corner of the web page. Don't mind the plenty grammar. What this means is that in some cases, you would have a parent element. Everybody would remember what is called parent element. So in a case whereby you have a div, I think I need to write. Let me write on this part, yes. So let's say you have a div like this. And you now have another div inside of that one. This is the parent div. I believe you all will agree with me. Parent. And this is the child div, right? So the parent is enclosing the child div. Now, if you want to set the position of this small element using the absolute positioning style, what you're going to do is for this small element, you're going to set position to be absolute. Now, for you to now be able to see the effect, the absolute setting or the absolute positioning would be with reference to this parent element. That's what we call position ancestor. But right now, the ancestor, which is the position, which is the parent, has not been positioned yet. So for you to now see this in effect, after you must have set this to be absolute, you're going to set this to relative.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to repeat myself. This is the absolute positioning is the position relative to the nearest positioned ancestor or top left corner of the page. We're going to come back to top left corner of the page. Let's deal with ancestors first. So when you set an element to be to absolute position, it's going to take a relative position to the nearest ancestor, positioned ancestor, meaning that even though it has a parent, which is the ancestor or the parent must also be positioned for you to see the effect of this absolute positioning in this particular div, the smaller one. Maybe I should have used a different color for this. So now, to do that, you're going to set div on this one to be absolute, and the parent would be relative. Now, what if there is no parent element? What if it's just a single element like we had in our example here? So right now we have only a single div. It's not having a child. Although he has a parent, the parent is body. So that's exactly what this is saying. So if there is no direct parent, it would actually be relative to the left corner of the web page. In that case, it will be referencing the body or the HTML, whichever one. But it must be referencing the left corner, the topmost left corner of the web page. Now let's see that in action. So if I go back to this website, absolute positioning, you can see now. Now, if I inspect this code, why did it fly up in this page? Let's do some inspections. So right now, this is the div that we're looking at. You can see it's right here. The parent it has, so right now, this is the box div. It has a parent, which is, the code is not a parent. Its parent is this class, positioning class type absolute. Apart from that, it does not have another parent except the main element. You can see. So this element is inside the main, and that's why it is referencing the topmost corner of the page. If there was a div that encloses this particular one, then it will be referencing that div. Now let's try that in code if that is not clear enough. So let's go here. So right now, there is no other parent apart from the body. If we go here and set this as absolute, and we set 50-50, you can see it takes almost the same position as the relative type. Why? Because there is no other parent element. It is still referencing the origin, which is the default position, just like the relative. But now, if I try to wrap it inside another div, if I wrap it inside another div, and you can see what happened here. So I'm going to do two divs. Let me just do another style so that I can change the color.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you open a new folder for this, or is this something we should have downloaded?
I'm just using this as an example. It's not part of what you have. There's something you will download for the exercises and all that. But for now, I'm only doing this as an example, right?
Because I saw 7.2. I'm wondering, like, is there
There is 7.2. I was only writing this new code inside 7.2, which I'm going to remove. It's not part of 7.2, but I don't want to create a new file. That's why I'm doing it inside 7.2.
So my download doesn't have 7.2.
Because it's supposed to be for today. So you can download now.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't send the usual message yesterday for you guys to download. But yeah, that's supposed to be download for today, for today's class. So there is 7.2, and there is going to be... Wait, did I actually uploaded that?
No.
I did not, right?
No. No, doc.
I am so sorry, guys. I am really sorry. My head is full. Okay. So let me quickly...
Maybe we just be general solving together.
General what?
Solve it together. So that we don't do it on our own.
No, wait. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to send it to you on Slack now. The two downloads for today. Is it 2 or 3? 7.2 and 7.3. Yeah. So 3. I'm going to just send them in a zip file. Sorry, guys. There's too many paparazzis going on with me. And I forgot to send this yesterday. All right, so I just sent.
Sorry. Ogalatas, sorry, please, can you reduce the size of the child so that we will get it easier?
I will.
The size of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. I just sent the zip folder into the general channel. So guys, please download that general folder and unzip it. The example I'm doing right now is also in there, or you can delete that later because we're not going to need it. But just in case you want to go along with the example, you can go along with that as well. I'm doing it inside 7.2. So download the zip, unzip it, and let me know when you're dead before I continue with this, guys. Sorry for the mesmerity, you know. This is not easy. It's really the body.
Ogalatas,
Yes, so
I noticed something. It seems like you are not sending anything to our drive again.
I know more.
Maybe that's what he just uploaded
Were you
now.
sleeping in this class? I know. Were you sleeping? Were you sleeping? I said, yes, today's class I forgot to upload for yesterday. And I just said the files you need today, I just zipped them and sent to you on general channel. Download that for today's class. I will update the drive, the Google Drive, by the end of today's class, so I can have the files on there. Okay. So it's just
all my former class list that is always on Google Drive, me remaining.
I don't know. I don't have anything to do with your Google Drive. The Google Drive where I upload all the files are there. Okay, so if you don't have it on your computer, go and download all of them again. But they are all there that have been loaded, except for today's class, which is a continuation of last class. Okay, so it's still going to be the lesson 8, but in the last class we stopped at 7.1. Today we are moving to 7.2 and 7.3. So those two are zipped up and sent in general channel. Download it, unzip it, and save it on your computer because we are working with that today. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So
okay.
Latas,
a very quick question.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to do the same thing that you're doing. My preview is not displaying. I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with what I'm doing here. Is it not the same style? Did you change anything up there?
So if you are using the same file I'm using right now.
No, I'm not using the same file. I'm just typing it like just. Okay,
so if you are typing it in there, there might have been some mixed up in your code. So you have an index.html. And if you have your index.html and you've had your boilerplate, and you've typed all this in there, and you right-click in that code, and you do show preview, you should see it showing up.
Oh, so you're saying that if I go click on let me go see. All right, let me go check that.
Okay. Is anybody having any question before I continue with this? Okay. If no question, and if you are all on the same page as me, I have updated this code now. So initially what we had was this. So I'll go back a little bit, just not to lose anybody. So what we had was this. We never had this. So we had a single div, and that single div, when I set the, remember we are talking about absolute positioning now. You can see that there was no difference between relative when I set it as relative and when I set it as absolute. It still maintained the same position. The reason is because you remember that a relative positioning would take a relative, will be positioned relative to the default position. And the default position in this case is the top of the page here. So when you set relative and you set top and left to be 50 pixels, it pushes it down and right by 50 pixels. Now, if I set absolute, it still maintain the same position as relative. Why? Because absolute position, if it doesn't find a positioned parent element or a position ancestor, it would also default to the left corner of the web page. In other words, it would default to what the relative positioning was, if that makes sense to you guys. So, but if it has a parent, let's now say it has a parent element, then it would not be positioned relative to the page again. It would only be positioned relative to the parent element. And let's give that a try. So now let's make it 2 divs. So now I have 2 divs on this page. And to make it clearer, I'm going to change the colors. So for me to change the color, that's why I did something like this. So now we have 2 elements on this page. Now, I want you guys to note something. I am not adding classes to style this element because I said from the beginning of this class that going forward, we are going to be using those CSS combiners that we learned in the last class and all the specificity we learned in the last class. And that's why I'm using them now, so that everybody would start seeing me using them and you start getting used to them, because we are not going to be wanting to see a lot of classes and ID and divs. It's okay if you use them, but they're actually not going to be as good as using this specificity and the combinations that I'm using right now. So I added another element here, a parent div, and then that it now has a child div. Now look at how I targeted the parent div to make it red, because you can see that the red is the one that encloses the green. So now how did I target this? And to make it better, I'm going to reduce the size of the green. This is the green. So I'll reduce the size to 150 by 150 so that it can be fully enclosed. All right. So now you can see that they are both divs. There's no classes, there's no ID, there's no attributes. But then I was able to style them differently. How? Because I styled the div to be green, which is this. So it has a width of 150 pixel by a height of 150 pixel, a color of green, and absolute positioning, top 50, left 50. Now, if I do, normally this div should have applied to both of them. If you remember when we were doing CSS and we're styling elements, whenever you style an element, it will apply to all the same elements on that page. But why was I able to get another red without adding a class and an ID? Because I said, give me that particular div that is a child of body. And if I ask you, anybody here, that which div is a child of body in this my code right here, you know, I have 2 divs. The first one, which is the one that encloses, and the second one inside. Which one is a direct child of body? It will be this. And that's the one I wanted to style as red. Who is confused? Okay. So where are you confused in this one?
Okay, so where I'm confused is how are we differentiating which div is which div exactly? That's one problem. But as I'm looking at it, I'm seeing that the first div is under body, right?
Yes.
That first one, and then the other divs are under this let's say child.
The other div,
right? So that's let's say this one ground, this one is son, this one is grandsons. Okay. All right.
Good. So let's now say this is the parent. The
Okay.
body is a parent. This div is a child, and this div is a grandchild.
Okay.
But let's now ignore the body. Let's look at the 2 divs. Among the 2 divs, which is this and this is the parent and this is the child. Why is it the parent and why is it the child? Because this one encloses this one. You can see that the closing of this is after this one is here. So because it encloses this one, it is a parent to this one. Makes sense, right?
Yes.
Now, and for us to now give them different styles, without adding classes. You remember before, if I ask you guys now to style this thing, you will give this one a class, maybe you call it parent, and then you give them another class, maybe you call it child. But now, without adding class, how do we still target them differently? So first, I targeted the inner div, and I used the not regular div. But if I did not do this, you will realize that that style would be applied to both of them. You can see
Both of them. Yes, yes.
it
Yes.
applies to both of them. So there's no way to even differentiate, except the fact that they were not together, right? But
So Latas,
yes.
sorry to cut it short. So in just like you always say that you always like to work from inside outside. So if you want to do this styling now from outside inside, how is it going to look like?
It's still the same thing. It's outside inside. The only difference right now is that I am specifying a particular div to style. So even if I start with the outside, it's still going to be the same thing. I'll still arrive at the same thing. In some few instances or few occasions, it might be meaningful to start from inside for your own understanding, for your own ease, to make it easy for you to work. Because sometimes if you start from the outside, you have to now go back inside to the previous code you wrote to adjust. So sometimes it's better to start from the inside and work outwards. But like I said, it is not it's not like it's a compulsory or something. It's just the way it makes it easy for me to work, right? So,
okay.
Yes. So now I'm trying to go back and forth on this combining CSS so that you guys can catch the fruit of, or the meat of this part, right? For me to be able to style this differently, I targeted the div that is the direct descendant of body. If you remember, we talked about this in the last class when we were doing CSS combination. And I can quickly scroll back there for you to see, except Jide was not in class, but he said he has watched it. So if you remember, we did this. We did group, and then we did child. This is what I just did there. So a selector, which is a parent, and there's another selector, which is going to be the child. If you style it this way, it will only target the direct child of this particular selector. And in this case, that's why we saw something like this. Sorry. Can you imagine? You guys can see bug, Abby. Did anybody see that bug? Just saw
Yes,
a bug.
sir.
Okay. If you don't see it, forget about it. Forget about it. Okay. So we're using the child method here. The div that is the direct child of the body, we are styling it to be background of red, and that's the bigger one here, because the red one has 300 pixel by 300 pixel, and the green has 50 by 50. So now, because this green now has a parent, the top and left 50 pixel is no more relative to the origin or to the default. It is now relative to the top left of the parent. I hope that makes sense, guys. Before, we said because there was no parent, this green was standing here where we have the red. 50 from the top of the page, 50 from the left of the page. But now that you have a parent and we still maintain that 50, it moved down relative to the parent.
Yeah.
And the parent is now the one that is taking that position of 50-50.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Let's just concentrate on the child. Forget about the parent. So the green element is the one we've been looking at, right? Before now, when it does not have a parent, okay, the position was somewhere here. You remember? And we're going to go back because this is important, guys. We must get it right. So I'm going to remove the parent. Which one did I remove? Oh God. Okay, now it's a descendant. So I will comment this as well. So this is the green box that we're talking about. It has no parents right now, right? And when we set top and left to 50 pixel and the position is absolute, it moved 50 pixel. In fact, let me make it 100 pixel. you can see that it moved 100 pixels from the top and 100 pixels from the right, from the left, relative to the starting position, which is here, the relative to the page, to the web page. And you can see that distance from here to here. 100, 100. Now, the reason why it is moving with relative to this position is because it has no direct parent. So it will take the body or the page as its parent. But now, with a parent now, and that parent now has its own style. You can see the green box, which is our focus, has moved from somewhere here now to here, because the 100 top and left is no more relative to this point. It is now relative to the parents. Please, is there anybody that understands this or this my plenty?
So I think where I'm getting confused, why the parent itself is because we don't have any position for the parent just yet, right? It was supposed to be relative to the parent. If the
To the
parent
body.
We actually do. We do have a position for the parent. The position we have, the top and left we have here is applying to div. The parent is also a div. Until we state otherwise, it will take that position. So until I come here and say, okay, let me set position for the parent now, which we are supposed to get to anyway, to relative. And we now say, okay, well, parent, don't take 100 by 100, only take 50 by 50. So we say 50, top 50, and then we set left 50 pixels. You see now? So we have the parent as relatively positioned. And when you set relative, remember, when you set an element to be relative, it takes a position with reference to the default position. And in this case, this is the default position. So the parent, which is red, is 50 by 50, is relative to the main page, to the default position here.
right, so we have to bring that 50 by 50. Why wasn't the parent at the top right, top left?
Without putting 50 by 50, it is because the parent is also a div. And we are saying every div on this page should take 100 by 100 by default here. So this code is also applicable to the parent because it's also a div. That's why you have it that way. I don't want to add class. I don't want to add anything here. That's why I'm explaining with this right now. Otherwise, maybe it would have been better a little bit. But what I want you to know is this. We set a div to have top and left 100. If I did not state these two, because the parent is also a div, it would follow that condition. You can see it increased to 100 because I did not give it its own personal position, okay, or personal distance. It will default to whatever div, because it's also a div, right? There's nothing you can do to that. It has to take whatever div is taking on that page until you now say, this is what you should take.
So what you're saying is the top and the left, what will I call them now?
Definition, yeah.
Positions. They are positions on their own. Like if you were to comment out that line that says position absolute.
This one.
If we take a position of top 100 and left.
If I remove this position absolute, this green is going to come right to 100 position from here. So it will move somewhere here. Let's see.
It becomes static.
It becomes static and it takes 100. It takes wait, let me see this.
Static of the parent.
It becomes static of the parent, but I was expecting it to take 100 anyways, but it's not. So I need to find out why it's not taking 100, because it shouldn't. It's taking 50 right now. I expect to see it somewhere here, because from here to here is 50. It should be at 100. But anyways, what it means is that it is no more absolute, and whatever position is taking is going to be relative to the body, to the page, not to this parent again, because it's no more absolute. If I change
just like what
absolute,
you explained, sir. So just like what you explained, if you comment that position out now,
yeah,
it still go back to what it goes back to what you said initially. The spacing will not have an effect because it is static until it is being changed.
exactly. So if I remove this, it's no more having any position. So it will maintain static. And exactly, thank you, Julius. So until it's being changed, thank you for that, for reminding me on that. Once the position is static, either I add static or I comment this out, this does not take any effect again because it is now static by default. Thank you. Because it is now static by default. So it maintains the static positioning until you specify which positioning you want. I know this is going to be a little bit here and there, but the truth is, this is the way going forward. And we all have to understand this because we are going to need to move elements around. Okay, so going back to what we were talking about, Jem, is there anything that is still confusing that I need to talk about?
Nice one.
What's that?
Just me, it's not you.
Well, I understand probably state of mind and all that, but one thing is this. We are moving elements which relative to a particular position. Okay? We are moving something relative to a position. Now, what is that position is key here. Is the position going to be the page, the entire page of this of your screen? I mean, your entire screen or the page of your website, or be relative to another element on that page? That's what we're actually explaining here. If you set it as relative, it is taking reference from the page. And in that case, this is the page. The white area you see here is the page. So it's taking reference from that page to move by whatever you set. But once you set absolute and there's no parent, it is still going to act as relative because since there's no parent, it will take the page as its parent. And then the distance will be relative to the page. But the moment there's a parent, like we have here, it does not relate to the body or the page again. It relates to the parent element. So the distance you set is going to start from the parent. So in this case, the green that we set to be 100 by 100 top and left is going to start from the edge of the parent, which is the red, instead of starting from here, which is the page. That's what I'm trying to explain.
There's still something that I'm thinking of.
Thanks.
I'll get an explanation. You know, in your previous explanation from the note where you said where you had like two divs. Where's your drawing? Yes. Where you had like two divs and you said something about the whole ancestor thing and how when you position the one inside, you said you must also set parent to relative. But back to what's it called now? VS Code. You're saying that, so I think my understanding of that was that you had to specify like the way you have it with the position in the parent, what is it called now? So I'm thinking like if you didn't have that there, how come it works with just having specified top and left, like
which I explained.
I'm understanding, but it's not working right now.
That understanding needs to work, and this is it. Because I'm going to ask you a question now. If you're writing a CSS code and you have lots of divs, okay? And the first CSS you're writing, you target the div directly, div, and you style it, and you say background color green. What do you see on that page? All the divs on that page will be what?
Green.
Will be green. Why? Because your browser is going to look for everything that is div and apply the green color to them. Now, here, without specifying this top and bottom, I mean top and left, you're saying that you expect this red to still be somewhere at the top, right? That why is it shifted down to this point? That's your question, right? Since we didn't specify top and left for it, why did it move? Why did this red moved down? It's supposed to be seen somewhere here at the top. Did I get was that your question or your confusion? No.
Really.
Okay, so what was it? Maybe I didn't get it then. So what was it?
It's about that first specification up there.
Which one?
So
This
I
one?
think that for yes, that first part.
So okay, so let's take it out.
Let me see. Yes. Okay. So both of them. I see. I think that's what I should have asked to be commented out in the first place.
Exactly. So taking this out, because both of them now they don't relate to any top and left, they all align to the top. Okay, but the moment I uncomment this, every one of them will move by 100 to their parents. And this is the trick here. In fact, this is even good that we did this. All of them would now move that 100 with reference to their own parents.
That's what I was looking for. That's the missing information. Okay. So
okay.
This is applying to every single div, and each one has their parent. So this one is then relative to the parent page or the body as it were. Okay.
And if you now feel like, I don't want this red to move 100, though, I only want this red to move 50, then specify top and left for the red.
Or you could specify 0.
Of course, you could specify 0. You could make it as 0.
Yes, and then
it takes top position.
Back up. That makes sense now. That's what
makes sense now. Okay.
Yes.
So in essence, the summary of all this is that the child takes what would you call it now? The child takes his position from the parent. Is that what we have been talking? Is that the essence of what we're talking about?
Yes. The child will always take his position if you are setting the positioning as absolute. The child will take his position from its parents. If it has no parents, it takes its position from the body, the page.
Okay, so that my next, hopefully the last question.
It doesn't have to be the last.
Yeah, hopefully, because I have a headache. I write notes here, so maybe that's my problem. You know where he said when you set an element to absolute, it will take a relative position to a positioned ancestor.
Correct.
Right? And so you have let's say we're working with that div up, the
green one.
So when you set that, you know what? Let me comment out I don't know if to do the inner div now or the outer one.
This is the inner div. This is the outer div.
No, specifically with the stuff, but this div up. Okay, let's comment out the parent div.
The styling or the div itself?
I guess both. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The styling.
Okay, so we remove the styling first, and then we remove the code.
Yes. So say we have one box.
Yes.
Right? In your explanation, if it's going to be positioned, it's relative to the body.
Yeah.
I want to set it as absolute.
Yeah.
Said the ancestor or the parent must also be positioned.
Okay, let's go back here.
Yeah.
Position relative to the nearest positioned ancestor. If you have an ancestor for it, that ancestor must be positioned. If there is no ancestor, the position is not applicable again. It goes to the top left corner of the page. Two things. Either it has a parent or an ancestor, which is also positioned. Or it does not have a parent at all. It takes its reference from the page. The page can
so then you don't need to be referencing.
Doesn't have to be positioned. The page doesn't have to be positioned. The page is already positioned. It's static. Okay, so it will now take a reference from the page. But if it does have a parent, then the parent must be positioned. That's why you see us positioning the parent here. This is the parent. That's why you see us positioning the parents to be relative.
Okay. So where it has a parent, this relative positioning has to be done.
Yes. Yes, compulsorily. You must, if it must be referencing that parent must be positioned as relative.
And then you don't is it necessary to also still do the top and left for it, or you can
don't
just
have to, you don't have to, but then you have to be careful. You will be the one to determine whether you need to or not. So let's say we don't. You see that it takes the same position as the green. What if that's not what you want? If that is not what you want, then you have to control it here.
I see.
Okay? I can have it as 50, I can have it as 0. Regardless, whichever one, however it suits my project.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Bob. Bob? Bob?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Are you lost?
No, not really.
Okay. Majid. 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 All right. We'll move to Alamin.
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Is everything fine? Are you lost?
100.
100.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
I like that. 100. Julie, is everything okay?
Yeah. Yeah, everything is okay, but there's one Ojoro that I really want to get. I've really understood what you said as regards the parents' div with reference to the body. But I still want us to go a bit further. If can I do the div of div instead of using the body to target the inner div? I'll just playing within my in my head.
Can you do
div
what?
of div angle.
Div parent of div. Look at the results.
Yeah.
You know why?
Okay.
Because you are no more targeting this. You are now targeting this. You are saying
Yeah.
that the div that is a child of another div. And if you look at this,
yeah.
This is the div that is a child of another div. But because we are only targeting this one, this particular one is what we want to target, it has to be the div that is a child of body. So that's
okay, better. Thank you. My curiosity has been satisfied.
Okay. Jaido, Alpha, on point or blurry?
I understand it. I understand it to the point of the absolute, how to differentiate between which is the absolute and the relative, and where they move to. Because I've been basically moving it around myself, to be honest. I've been moving it all over the place since changing from red to green. So yeah, I get it.
Perfect. Who else have I not called? Ariomo. Otisun.
I'm with you.
What Alpha? Are you lost? Is it blurry or it's clear?
Yeah, it's a little bit blurry, but then
what part is blurry?
See that grandfather, granddaughter of it, but then if I'm doing the Ojoro, I'm understanding, but then your English is too hard for me. That deep or no deep.
Don't worry. I will learn more. I will learn to speak better English than this. Maybe that would help. But right now, you have to take this my poor English like that. You have to understand it. It's important. So if I mention any word or say anything that is still blurry, flag me down. You know why? Because today, you all are going to do a project in this class. It's a project, but it's in the class. It's not take home. And you're going to need all these things. That's why I'm shouting on top of my voice to make sure we all get it. Right? So let's try and get it. Flag me down. Stop me. Ask the question. Do like Jem. I'm not angry. I will only be angry if during the project you ask me those questions. You go pay me. You go pay me. So ask
Sorry
me
in
the
advance.
question now. All right.
Apologies in advance, sir.
Okay, guys. So that is absolute positioning. Okay. You can see how we have been able to put this green inside of the red, and we've been able to position it. We see we can move it around as we like. We can make these, let's say we can make this to be instead of left to be, sorry, instead of left to be right, and make it, you can see when I say right 0 pixel, you move it to the right of its parent and align Petipeki to the left, to the right. If I make it 10 pixel, it shifts it by 10. You can see how it's moving around. You know the funniest thing? This is how they built those games that you play. That you know that game that you'll be playing, ball will be going bang, 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 bang. This is the concept of the game. Although we use randomization to do that. Randomization means when you throw it left, right, play it up and down, you're randomizing the positioning, but it's still using positioning system. So when it touches the wall, you're randomizing position to be 0 pixel. When it touches the bottom, you randomize the bottom to be 0 pixel. So that takes a lot of work for a novice like me, but for a pro game developer, they have even better functions to write the randomization so that it becomes very fast. Bang, 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 bang. You see, it's cool. You are learning those concepts right from here until we get to that level, right? So this is how we use absolute positioning. And we are going to continue to what is called Z-index. It's not part of the positioning, but I have to explain this to you before we go to the last one. And there's a reason for that. There's something called Z-index when you're doing positioning in CSS. Z-index, don't mind the word, it sounds horrible, it's not even sweet, but it's very easy. What it means is you're positioning an element relative to the why am I making all this mistake now? I need a proofreader. My proofreader. Okay. Let me just remove it. Guys, thank God I have not sent it in the Google. Okay, I know why I didn't send that thing. I was supposed to come back and go through it before I sent, but I slept off. All right. So Z-index is actually the property that determines the order of the element on the Z-axis of the stacking context. Again, English. Let me use the normal, our own Tiwantiwa English to explain that. Forget about the Z-axis of the thing. Forget about the stacking of the thing. What that means is this. I have, let's say I have, let's say I have this paper, guys. Just in your mind, use your brain to paint it green. Let's say this is green and this is red, okay? If I show you this green, what you see is what? You see green, right? If I put this red in front of it, what are you going to see? You're going to see red because they are of the same size, right? If I bring in another blue paper and I put it in front, what do you see?
The blue.
You see blue. If I bring in yellow paper from somewhere and I put it in front again, what do you see?
The yellow.
The yellow. That's Z-index. What it means is that the order through which you stack the elements on a page, you see the front one first, and that's what you can see here, guys. Look at this.
Okay.
This is the stack right now. We call it stack in software. You have the first element that is gray color. By the time you put the pink one on top of it, you're going to see pink. By the time you put the blue one on top of it, you're going to see what? Blue. If you put the green, let's forget about the size right now. Let's assume they are all the same size, okay? If you put this green one, you're going to see what? Green. And it's the same thing here. Now, how does that relate to Z-index? Because at some point, you want to put an element in front of another element. You want to really put it, like deliberately put it there like that. For you to be able to do that, you don't want the element at the back because sometimes you want to set background animations, background animation, something you want to be running in the background of the page, maybe a cat dancing in the background, but then people can still read something on top of that cat. Then what you'll be doing is to be setting a Z index for those elements. Now, the one that takes the lower Z index will be at the back. The one that takes the higher Z index would be in the front. And you can see, as I have here, I have Z index of 1, I have Z index of 2, and I have Z index of 3. The one that has Z index of 3 would automatically move to the front. That's all it is by Z index. So it is the property that determines the order of the element on the Z axis of the stacking context. So this is the Z axis. You're stacking elements on top of one another. The one that you give the highest Z index would automatically move to the front. So let's now see how that works in a code. Now, let's say these two elements are of the same size and there's no positioning, because now I'm going to move away from positioning a little bit. And they are of the same size. Now, what do we see here? We see that the inner one, which is green, has covered the red one completely. Completely. Why? Because it is a child of the red. So by default, it will be in front. If you, let's say we have another one again. Let's say we now have another div here.
Inside of it.
Let me put it inside of this one. And then I target that one again. So it's going to be a div inside that div. And I make it blue.
Okay,
So now we should have 3 elements. So there's a div, and there's a div. And so body div, body div, wait, body div, meta.
Yes, so the complete.
It's complete. Should I complete in sync? We have body div. So it will be body div. So the child that is the div that is the child of another div, and child, so it's a great grandchild of the body. Let's use that word. Okay. So now the reason why you see only the blue on top was because it is the last, obey the last command. Okay, it is the last child, the great grandchild on that page. But what if, even though this is your order of your code, but you want this blue not to be in front, you want something else to be in front, maybe the green, maybe the red, without removing it from where it is? Because remember, when you are writing your code, this is where it should be by virtue of the structure of your website. But now, although that's the original position, you want it to be in the background, you want something else to run in front. How do you do that? Yes? Okay, I thought somebody told me. So how do you do that? Let's say you want to bring the green to the front instead of the blue by default. Then you go there and set Z index to be, let's say you set it to be 10. Go from learn for sure. Wait.
But there's only 3 elements, no?
Yes.
Why is that index going to 10?
Of course, you can set it at 100, doesn't matter. So why I'm doing this is because sometimes you don't even know how many elements are on that page because you've written like 3,000 lines of code. You can't go and be counting how many elements, okay? So you just think of a very high number that can bring it to the top at all costs. You can set 1,000. So it throws it to the top, regardless of how many elements you have below. Okay, you get. So instead of going back, right now we have a very small code. You can see that it's 3 elements, but in a real world scenario, you have more than 8,000 lines of code on that page. You don't even know how many elements. You cannot start counting. So just set it to a very good number that you can be sure that it will come on top regardless. It doesn't matter whether you set it as 1 million. It doesn't matter. You just want it to be on top of every other thing, right? But yeah, that's by the way. This is not working as it should. So what's going on here? It looked like The Z index cannot actually override the position of those elements. So what we're going to do is this. We are going to, let me see, a typical word scenario. And while you are here, I'm going to Google, because as a software developer, you should Google. Z index. Okay, so let's see what Mozilla developers are saying. And just like we said, they had Z index of 1, 2. Okay, so
are we not going to? Is it okay? Are you?
Change my Z index. So this is 7. This is set to auto. So this one, and then they set to 1. They set it to 3. It covers that. They set it to this. It covers. Okay, and set it to 7.
I only need 1, 2, 3. Only 2.
Yeah, like I said, the number does not matter. You just want to, you can see here, they set as 289. It doesn't mean they have 289 elements on the page. So you can set to a high number just to bring it to the top, right? Okay. So what else? I'm looking for the condition that affects the position of those elements before you add Z index. I don't think it should affect it, but why is it working? So I need to find out. Let me see. Where is the code again? Okay, so I'm going to inspect this. I'm going to take this to the browser and inspect. All right, let's inspect. So we have the element, and where's the style? So remove the green. Then we have the blue on the top. Interesting. We have the blue on the top, but we are trying to bring the green to the front. So let me move it to the right and see the behavior. Yeah, so it looks like you cannot override the position of those elements. So I'm going to have to do maybe a side-by-side thing to test this Z index of a shape. I don't think there's any problem with the way I set it. It looks quite okay. But what if I take this to the blue and give it a negative Z index? So throw it to the back.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So if we're not using any of the positioning in VS Code, if we're not using any of the positioning,
yes,
the first style with the 300 pixel and just div, if it's supposed to apply to all the divs, why are we still specifying width and height for the other styles?
Because we wanted to use different sizes before.
Right
now, if we're using the same sizes, we don't have to specify for all of them. Since all of them are going to be, since all of them are going to be 300 pixel, we can take all of them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we use that because initially we want to use different sizes to differentiate things. Okay. So I'll leave it as it is. I'm still having issues with this Z index of the thing. And where's the Mozilla again?
Okay, maybe you find that one out later. Let's continue.
You want teacher to continue from a topic you want to teach?
No, Z index is just by the wayside. It's not the core of what we are doing today. So you can always come back to that.
We need it. I'm trying to find out what is going on here I must have missed a condition somewhere. That's what I'm trying. Okay. What set the Z order of a positioned element? Positioned elements, and it's the sender. Okay. Different. Okay.
You have to do
See that now? See why this thing is fucking me up?
Sorry.
Yeah. So what happened was the elements you want to apply Z index on must be positioned. But I commented out the positioning and I wanted the Z index to work. So I'll go back and do what we're supposed to do. You see the power of Google. Make sure when you are stuck, Google, okay? Because we're not supposed to cram anything. So right now, what I want to do is I'm going to make all of them to be relative so that we can see this in play really well. So relative, all of them should maintain the same position. In fact, let's just do position to be static. Maybe not.
With absolute, it shifts all of them layer. Like with the way you initially had it, with the div having absolute and the body div having relative. I think the third one, my third one doesn't have yet. So it just shifted all three. It's quite nice.
So what we have here is that the green is on absolute, is at absolute position, and a child of the red. The red is relative, and the blue is also relative. So the blue is relative, red is relative. Now, we are saying that right now, because the blue is the child, is the great grandchild, is the one on top right now. But if we want to bring, let's say, the red to the top, then we can go to the red and set Z index to be 10. What again now?
Sorry, even your screen, I don't know if we have different codes. Where is your red?
The red is not showing because it's underneath the green. It's underneath the, let's see. This code is looking messy already. Let's cut some things down.
Oh.
Let's cut some things down. And so now we have the div. This one was actually 100. So this is absolute, this is relative, and what else? Something is missing. Okay, so this we need to comment out this. And did I add code somewhere? So this is top 50 pixel, and that.
What's the shortcut you are using to comment out this thing again?
In your own case, it'll be Control/.
Control/. Okay.
Yeah.
So I put it in front of the stuff or at the bar at the end of it?
At the end of it, like here, in front of the line.
Okay.
But if you're doing a whole box, you have to highlight the whole thing and then come.
If you're doing more than one line, you have to highlight all of them and do Command or Control/.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot of things that is messed up here already. We need to go back to where we came from. Or we'll go back. All right, this was what we had before. Right, and then we have the positioning, both of them. Then we had this to be 150. So this is the green. We had the bottom to be 100 and this to be 100. And we had the size to be 150. Okay, 150. And we have this to be 150 as well. So this is what we had before. In fact, let's just maintain these two. So we're trying to set the Z index. If I set Z index on green, because right now green is in front, if I set Z index on green to be a negative value, it should go to the back. And then we should see the red one in the front. So let's say I go on green and I set Z index to be -1. Normally it should go to the back, but it's not going to the back. Oh my goodness, what is going on here? So you can set this negative value, lower the priority. So what's going on? Why is my own not being lower? So position element. This is still the problem, is the positioning. So position should be static. Position here is this, relative. Position here is this and that. Yeah, so static, relative, and this. So if I go here and change both of them to be relative, nothing change. So if I change this to static, change this to static as well. If I change this to 10 or 1, it comes forward. If I change the minus, it goes backwards. So what is the problem? Okay, so I think my problem is the positioning thing that is not really functioning the way it should function. But right now, what I'm trying to explain here is sorry guys, 1 minute. Sorry guys, yeah, so it is the positioning stuff that is giving me headache. Sorry, I don't write this code every day. You have to bear with me. I'll make sure I get it right later. So what is happening here is that we are trying to, so I'll bring it back to what it should be. So this is 300 by 300. So we have 2 boxes, 300 by 300, and this one has moved away. So I'm going to set this to be 50-50. Just want to push them to the same corner. So right now I have the green and the blue. Now, when I set Z index to be negative value on the green, it pushes it to the back. If I set it to 1, it should push it to the front. Even if I set it to 100, it will still maintain the front because, of course, we don't have up to 100 elements on this page. It will always stack that in the front. Now, if I have another element, let's say I have a third div that I was trying to do before, and that one is blue, it would automatically push that blue. So it's saying the body div that is inside of div. So now we're talking about this div, right? Now we're not saying that we have a blue that is in front, which is the grandchild of the other two, and it's the one that takes precedence. But that's by virtue of its position. If I change that, if I move the Z index on that blue, on this, which one do I want to do? If I move the Z index on that blue to be minus, that's what I want to say. And I set it to be -1. Still did not work. Okay, I'm going to leave Z index, guys. Put in formula. I'll come back to Z index for you guys. Oh my God.
I'm wondering is why mine is acting opposite of yours.
Yours is doing what?
It's doing opposite. So if you comment out the blue thing.
The blue thing, this one.
Yes, comment out the entire blue thing. Because now the blue they give us
That index better family revere you.
Shut up there.
No way with this index
Can
go
I
work.
see your 2 boxes? Because I don't know why mine is.
These are the 2 boxes.
So like for
There
the
is
code,
no way this
so you
index would work.
Alamin now. Go down, please. I've been up, down. I don't know. I need to see the codes, not this one. So for div, you have width as 300, height as 300, background color as green, position as, I guess now relative. Hold on. Relative. Because mine has it arranged with red up and green down. I don't understand why.
Did you set the Z index on the green?
At all. So top, you have oh, that's why. You have bottom and right. I have top and left.
Okay, bottom and right. That's another problem now. Let me just put it back to bottom.
Wait, hold on, and then you have 50-50. So that might be the current difference in my own sizing. I have 100. 50. Let me see. I just
let's
be on
have
the same
100.
page with you right now. We're
Oh,
back to 100.
I will make this 100.
Allah. Go up. Hold on.
So
Let
top
me
left,
see
top
around.
left. Yeah.
I think so.
This
Body
one?
and div has background color of red. 300, 300. But you're changing it back to relative.
Absolute.
And 50-50, right? And the top one is absolute. I think that's where we started this whole wahala from. Absolute.
But this is not what I should. Okay, this is what I should see actually. Okay, so we have the green overlaying the red. But if I set the green to -1, I expect it to throw it to the back right now. So the problem I'm having is because I'm using. I know the problem that is going on here. I just don't want to go through that. So what I'm doing is I'm using Z index on an embedded element, which shouldn't really be, because right now they are taking their original position, and at the same time I'm setting position of absolute and relative. It would not go well with Z index. I only need to see the resources. I need to read about Z index again and understand what condition is supposed to change. So right now, if I change this to relative, it works the way it should, right? It should work. So if I change this to static, you can see that it works. So the Z index on green is negative. That's why green is behind. If I change it to positive, let's say 1, it brings green to the front. You can see that. So it works the way it should. The problem I'm having is which of the positioning system it should work with. That's where the issue is. And I'm going to figure that out. It might not be here right now because I need to go through the documentation again to be sure of what I'm doing. But yeah. So I'm going to use this.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm thinking what you're currently doing might be making sense because you're applying it to the entire div thing as opposed to.
Yes, that's another problem. I'm actually working on div with no class name, with nothing. There's a lot of things that are mixing up. You're right. Because it's getting applied to the div, and since all are divs with no classes, a lot of things need to change. So some rules are contradicting right now. And I know only that resolving them would need me to go through the documentation to know which rule I'm supposed to cancel or not. But I can figure out already that it doesn't work when I set this as absolute positioning, because the absolute positioning would rather take precedence over the Z index. That's what I'm getting right now from here. Without the absolute positioning, if the positioning is relative and the other one is static, it works as it should. So if right now the green is in front because it's 1, if I bring a Z index on the red and I make it 10, the red should come forward, but it still doesn't because it's static. What if I make it relative? Yeah, there's a lot of rules that are contradicting here. So what I can do is what?
Not done the absolute positioning. We stopped at the relative.
We stopped.
You were about going. That was when we now branch to Z to quickly explain this Z axis. But so don't forget.
Yeah, we're going back to that. We're going back to that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to test something. I'm trying to take it out from being a direct descendant to something like this and see if there is a difference. So
I have a delivery. I'll be right back.
Okay. Relative and top left. I make both of them to the 50. All right. This is exactly what I'm trying to do. Okay. So if I make this 0, it goes behind. If I made it 10, it comes forward. If I made this 10, it doesn't change. If I made it 100, it comes forward. Yes. It's the parents, is the embedding that is causing the problem because they are direct child of another. So they can't override their parents. That's why. So now I made them as separate divs. And
Okay.
now what we are trying to get is working the way it should. So there's absolute and there's relative. But because they are separate divs, they are not parent or child of another, it works the way it should. So,
Okay.
yeah, so even if I add a third one now, we will be fine. If I add a third one and say class is blue, and then we come here and do a blue class. And we give it the same thing as relative. Move this to, no, this will be absolute because it's coming on top as well. Yeah. So now we have 3 different Z indexes. Let's just take 1 minute to wait for them then. Now that we are here. Z index, we want to ruin the session. Oh, to that. Oh man, let's take 1 minute, 2 minutes before Jen comes back. Take a break, take water, take coffee, take anything. Okay. Now we were able to find the solution to our issue here. So I removed the parent and child thing, the descendant and ancestor stuff. So I made them as independent div classes just to be able to explain Z index. We'll go back to what we had when we are explaining the continuation of position. But for now, so we have 3 independent div boxes. One is parent, one is child, and the other one is blue. And we style them as accordingly. We have the parent, which is green. We have the child, which is red, and we have the blue, which is blue. Now, why are we seeing green, or why we are seeing green on top is because green has a Z index of 100. The next one to green is red, and that's why we can see red. It is showing, it's having a Z index of 10. And the next one, which is going to be the last, is having a Z index of -1. It can actually even be 1 or 9. It will still be where it is. But the moment it moves from 9 to, let's say, 11, it should come behind the green. So let's say we move this from 100 to, let's say, 9. We can see that we have blue in front because blue now has the highest Z index. So 11, 10, and 9, and 10 is red. If you move 10 to, let's say, 2, although it's not showing behind it, but the moment I move green, let's say, so we have 11, 9, and that. If the moment I move, let's say, let me move it to -1. So if I move, let me move this to 12, something. What's this one? 11. So let me move green to 12. So green comes forward. So the concept here is that the one that takes the higher Z index comes to the front, and the one that takes the lowest goes all the way to the bottom or behind. So that's the concept of Z index. And we can now see that it works with positioning, but
Is it really working? Is it really working? But if you said the one with the lowest, which is -1, why is the
why is the red showing behind it?
yes, why is the red showing behind it instead of the blue?
Right. So I think the concept of Z index is basically the topmost and the one at the bottom. So
Okay.
the other ones, as their stack, is not really important to Z index. It is what is important is the topmost and the one behind.
So
That's
if we changed blue to 12, if we change blue to 11, it would no. Let's say change to 11, then it means it's the one that goes.
So green comes forward.
So
Yeah, but the red, why is the red still showing then?
That's what I'm saying. Because
okay, yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. If we moved, so if we changed the value of red to be that is say 9, or is it no I guess that means we have to change the color, the size for blue. Okay,
So
let's change Z index for green to 13, and then the other one for 12. So let's see.
Green to 13.
And then the other one for 12, the blue for 12.
Blue for 12.
So why is it not changing then?
So what, like I said, it is what.
Oh, the one with the lowest one. The one with the lowest one.
The one with
Okay.
the lowest one, yeah.
So if we change the blue to 12, then it will be the one to show now. If we change it to 8, it will be the one to show, right? Let's say we change blue. We change blue to 8, the Z index for blue to be 8, then it will be the one to show, right?
It's going to remain where it is. It's not
Why?
Because it's still not the one on top.
The higher the
But
number.
for what you said was that the one with the lowest then goes to behind it, which is the last one, right?
Yeah, so you're not going to see what is behind. You're not going to ever going to see what is behind. What you're seeing is going to be the top, what is on top. But I said that what is important to Z index is which one should go behind and which one should come forward. But for visibility purpose, it's going to be what you see on the top. Even if I go to the Mozilla, which is the documentation for all this, let's say I'm able to add, I want to use their own as an example. Let's say I'm able to add another one. Let me see if I can. So they have 3, and it's only 2 that is being stacked. They did not stack 3. So I want to find a way if I can stack 3 on their page. Yes, here, good. So you can see here, they have 1, 2, 3, 4. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's say I have 3 moving. So class is box, ID is 2, 3, 4. So let's say I have an ID 4. So I'll copy this and duplicate their own code. Did they allow me to do that? It's frozen. Let me see. All right. So I'm going to add the CSS. This is their own. This is the documentation, not my own code, right? So let's have this here. Let's make this 4. So 4 is blue. I'm going to make it green. So box 2. Is there any other 4 on the page? So box ID 2. All of them, dot box, ID2, relative. Okay, so green. Good. So 4 is green, and I'm going to bring it behind number 3. So where is 3? So 2 is on top, and 4, I want to move it around. So let's move left to absolute. Okay, so if it's absolute, I am moving it by 50, no, not 50, left to 50. All right, so now we have 1, 4, and 3 stacking on one another. So let's use Z index on them. So now if I use Z index, so right now the 4 is on top because of where it is. So right now if I put Z index on that, and I put it as 10. So green is on top. If I put Z index on the blue, and I make it as 1, and then I put the same Z index on the other one. 2 is.
Can you please zoom in?
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm trying to get the central div for the 4 boxes.
Yeah, there is a box site, there's a box, whatever. So that's
okay.
Going to first of all.
Okay.
So there's a box class, there's an ID for each of them. So now ID2 is blue. ID, how many boxes is there? Display inline box. What's going on? I'll take this out. Okay. So 2 has Z index of 1, and 2 is this, which is blue. If I change that to 100, comes forward, right? Now let's look at 1, which is red. Red is that's 1. Let me go and target 1 again. Sorry if this looks messy right now. We're just trying to practicalize that. So 1. The color. I'm going to remove it so I can still remain as red. So, right. I'm even showing again. Imagine 2 which is what on the page. So where is 1? 1. Position is okay. Position is absolute. It's 20 pixel. Okay, so it goes behind. And actually, left is 50 pixels. So it was sending me something there. Okay, now Z index for 1 is 10. Let me make it 100. Okay. So now let's look at the order now. Unfortunately, I can't make this box bigger than this. So I have to be scrolling in and out. So 1 is Z index of 100, which means it should be on the top. Let me change the color so that I can make more sense. What color can I give this? Purple. Okay. So 1 has the highest Z index, followed by green is 10, and blue is, it doesn't have anything. 2 is blue. So let's give it Z index. Z index of, let's say, 1 for now. All right. So purple has Z index of 100, and of course is the one we see on the topmost. The next should be this one, green, because it's Z index of 10, and the other one is Z index of 1. So purple should be the one, blue should be the one far behind, while green should be the one next to purple. But look at what you can see. We saw only purple. We can't see the green. Why? Because Z index does not care what happens next. It's only for display purposes, it displays what is on the top. But on the background, it's only concerned about the topmost and the one far bottom. But for display purposes, you only see the top one. And that is the one we are seeing here with Z index of 100. So that's why we see purple. And that is 1, ID number 1. You can see it here, 1. The next one we see is blue. But blue actually has Z index of 1. So normally it should be the one on the far background. But of course, like I said, it's not bothered about what comes next after the top one. For visual purposes, you see the top one. But in order of arrangement, it needs to know what goes behind and what comes on top. So those two statements is what I was trying to explain before, and that's what we just showed here. With what the question Jide was asking, we would expect that after you see the purple, we are supposed to see what? Green, because it's the next in order of ranking. Is Z index of 10, not the one that has Z index of 1, which is blue. But we are seeing blue because it doesn't matter to Z index. What matters for visual purposes is the top card. And then for arrangement purposes, it needs to know what is behind and what is in front. Does that make any sense, guys? I know it's going to be a little bit confusing. You want to see everything as layers, but that's the rule.
So the thing is this, does it matter if, let's say, how do I say this? It doesn't matter the way it is arranged in our code. Like, can we go back to your own code?
Yeah.
So that we can. So now let's say this child is up here. Does it matter if blue is on top of child and child is underneath?
On top and under, what do you mean? If I move
So
this
when we move, let's say we move the position of in the CSS, not Okay.
In the
No,
CSS.
well, doesn't
Okay.
matter where it is in the CSS itself, like
Okay,
in the
so
styling. In the styling,
Okay, so
doesn't matter.
let's move child after blue. It doesn't
So
matter.
it doesn't matter. Okay.
The Z index will always figure them out by itself and rearrange them.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to.
Okay, Jen, what was your question?
I was wondering if the sizes of the boxes, like if they were all of different sizes, if that display would work.
If the boxes are of different sizes, okay. So let's try that. So the green, let's put the green for 300. Let's put the blue for 200 by 200. And let's put the red for 150 by 150. Now, because the green is bigger than all of them, and it has the highest Z index, it's obviously the only thing we're going to see, right? Now, let's make the green the lowest. So we have 8, we have 9. So let's make it 7. So the highest ranking right now is 9, which is red. And then it shows the blue next, of course, not because it's the next in line, but it's just because that's the next bigger element that you see. Right. And then it shows the last one, which is the green, the biggest. Okay.
So if you swap green and blue,
if you swap green and blue,
the blue will disappear.
If you swap green and blue, yeah, the green is not going to cover the blue. So if we put the blue, what's the green? The green is 7. If you make this 10, oh no, no worries. If you just change 7 to 9. So this is 9 as well. Of course it will cover. So let's make this 10. So the blue is lost. Because now we have, because it's only because it is bigger than the blue. So it covers the blue in essence. But what is important to us is what is on the top, and that is red. Okay? Any other question, guys? Quickly step out for scholar. Sorry, guys, I have somebody at my door. 1 minute. Guys, okay, so I'm back here. Any other questions, guys, on Z index before I move on to the next one after the absolute position? The next one is going to be fixed positioning. Fixed positioning is different from static. It is fixed. So if there's no other question, let's talk about fixed positions. So for the fixed positioning, this is going to be positioned relative to the top left corner of browser window. So it's more or less close to what is the static, but the static is by default. You don't have to set it. And if you set as static, even if you position 1000 left, 1000 top or bottom or right, it's not going to move that object. It's going to remain where it is, the default position. But when you set it as static, although it is also relative to the top left corner of the browser window, but it can move around. By the time you set those values, it will move it around with reference to the top corner of the browser window. Now, even if it does have a parent, it's not going to be relative to that parent. It is always going to be relative to the top corner of the browser window. So this is the difference between the fixed and static and absolute and relative. The fixed position is always relative to the corner of the browser window. And regardless of whether it has parent or not, once you set the top, bottom, left, and right, whichever one you set there, it is going to still be relative to the top corner of the browser window. And how does that work? Let's see that on our small website that we've been using. So here, if I click on fixed, you can see that when we set the position to fixed, top to be 50 pixel and left to be 50 pixel, the object is relative to the top left corner of the browser window, regardless of whether it has a parent or it does not have parent. How do we do this in real coding? And this is it. So we are going to have a single object, and I'm going to remove all of this if you all are okay with that. So I'm going to have a single div, and that single div, we would set the position, no Z index this time. We will set the position to be fixed. Now, so there's no more class, it's going to be div. So the position is going to be fixed, and we are setting it to be 50, 50 top left, and it's always going to be there. Now, let's now say it has a parent. Just want to demo that for you guys to see that regardless of the parent, it's still going to maintain its position. Let's now say it has a parent, and the parent is body that has a child of div, and we put that as width of, let's say, 350 by height of 350, and the background color of red. And what else? So width 350, height 350, background color red, and we say position. Let's say position of relative, and let's leave the top and bottom for that. So the parent element, if I let me make this more smaller to really know the difference. Okay, now I have to set this to be so these 350, the sizing, I want to make sure that sizing does not.
We make the green smaller. Okay, it's smaller.
Yeah, it's smaller, but the sizing is affecting all the divs there. So I need to make this one independent and not affect that one. So the size here is supposed to be bigger. That's when it will make sense. And then this one would be, let's say 250. Anyways, so now the fixed, which is the green, that's what we're looking at. And you know, it has a parent of this one, which is the red. But we are saying that if it is set fixed, so let's say an example where we set to absolute. Absolute means that it will be relative to this one. It will be relative to the parent, which is red. And that's why you see it push down beyond the red parent. But when you set it to fixed, it doesn't care whether it has a parent or it doesn't have a parent. It's always going to be relative to the origin, to the window browser or browser window. So that's the difference between fixed. Now, the way to appreciate fixed positioning very well is here. Let me show you this. So this is the IIBA website. IBA is the Institute of Business Analysts. And oh my God, they have this preview yesterday when I opened it. That's the preview I want to use to show this concept of fixed position. I have to look at another website to do that. Let me see. You don't knock doors like that, Jackson. Really? Not like and then someone come. Why you guys making a drop? They are here. Guys, come on. Your friends are looking for you. Come on. Okay, can you please close my door for flight, please?
Jackson, ẹni kí wọ́n jálẹ̀kùn.
Yeah, there's this positioning thing I want to show you. Eh?
Jackson.
Let me use another website. I'm looking for a fixed position stuff. I had it on that website yesterday and I actually kept it so that I'll be able to show. Unfortunately, you want your fixed position on. I need a website that can give me that vibe of fixed position. Let me do this here.
Okay, Latas. Okay, let me quickly send let me send a picture to the I think I snapped. Let me see.
So the fixed position the fixed position I'm trying to explain is this. So sometimes when you visit a website, you realize that there's going to be something, maybe a view or a card or an element that is going to be at the same position, even as you scroll through the page. That element will always be there. When you move, it will never move. It will be there while you're scrolling. It's never going to leave that same position. That's an example of where we use fixed position.
Which one is that? The one with the IIBA on top?
No, it's not here right now. I'm trying to explain because they had that thing pop up yesterday when I opened this website, because I took time to look for a website that can give us that vibe, but unfortunately it's not showing anymore there. And I don't know which other website I can look at to see it right now. Let's see Netflix. For me. Normally, like this sign-in box for Netflix, in that situation, it will just be fixed. Even when you scroll the page, oh, I think I would have something like that. Let me log into Netflix and see. So if you open one of these, come on. Still not the exact vibe.
Okay, Latas, have you used them Boomplay before?
Boomplay? No.
Yeah. So your Boomplay is a player. So there are some times when all this ad comes up, the ad comes up at the front, and once you are the ad will be showing at the uppermost.
I found what I'm looking for. If you guys look at this thing on this page, if you can see this, there's a close button here. There's something displaying here. There's a button that shows get premium and all that. You can see that even when I scroll the page, it doesn't leave that position. They remain there. It is because they've been set to bottom right. That's where the fixed position is. So regardless of whether you zoom, whether you move the page or you scroll the page, like every other element are scrolling with the page, that is not going to scroll because it has been set to be fixed position, and it will never leave that position until you change that position. That's a typical example. Sometimes you see something display at the center of the page, and even when you are scrolling, everything will be scrolling in the background, at the back of it, behind it. But that particular element will not scroll. It will remain there. Sometimes it could be signing, it could be logging, it could be register. Maybe they want to register on the page. It will just be there. When you scroll the page, it will not scroll. It will remain there because it has been positioned to be fixed. Now, when you do a display, we cannot see it in one of these examples. The reason is because you must have elements fill up the page to allow scrolling for you to really see that fixed position in effect. That's why I'm looking for a typical website where I can show it. But right now we can fix it to bottom right, like bottom right on the page if we really want to fix. So let's say I remove this parent, which we don't really need. And I want to fix this this green box to the bottom right. I will just do right 0 and bottom 0. Now, like I said, except this page is filled with elements, we may not be able to see the effect of that fixing, because normally there are other elements on this page. By the time we scroll on this page, it would remain at the bottom. Nothing is going to change. So if I do something like this, let me see if we can fake it. So if I go here and bring our page here, and then I reduce the size of this screen, hopefully if it will help us. No, it's not going to work. We need to have other items on the page to make that effect to come up actually. And that's why I was looking for a working website to really show it. But this is the typical example of what I'm trying to explain. So this thing here is a whole card that has other elements inside of it. It has been fixed to the position where it will be at the lower bottom. And regardless of scrolling on that page, it will not scroll with the page. It will remain exactly where it is fixed to. That's how to position something as fixed. Unfortunately, my IIBO site has messed up. They don't have that. Yesterday it was showing like that here, and it was really fun to have it there, so I can show in class today. That's why I saved it, but that's gone. So yeah, so that's what it means to have a fixed position for any of your elements. It will be fixed on that spot, and regardless of scrolling on the page, it will not move with the page. It will remain there. And then it is fixed relative to the top left corner of the web page. So that's what makes the fixed positioning different from the other ones, the static, the relative, and the absolute. Any question, guys? So
please, the absolute, I didn't get the absolute very well.
all right.
Maybe I didn't put my mind to it. I'm not sure you treated it as a section on its own. You were just seeing it when you were doing the
No,
small.
I treated it as a section on its own. So let's quickly go to
Maybe my mind was not there.
yeah. So absolutes, like we were explaining, that it is going to position that element relative to the nearest position ancestor or top left corner of the web page. So the first thing it will consider is if it has a parent. If it has a positioned parent, in other words, the parent has to also be positioned. And then the element you are setting the position to be absolute on must take its reference from that positioned parent. And that's when I drew this drawing. What I was drawing there is that if you have a parent element like this, and you now have another element another box inside of that. For you to, if you set this element to the position to be absolute, without setting this parent, this element will take its reference from the web page, the top of the web page.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Hello, Baika. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so for you to make this absolute position, you have to set the parent to be relative position. So that's what they mean by positioned ancestor. Now, in a case where there is no parent, it will take its reference from the top corner of the web page. So which means whatever position you set, it will measure it from the top left corner of the page to position that green element. But if there is a parent, a positioned parent that has a relative position, the reference will be starting from the edge top left corner of that parent. And that's what we were doing that time. I've removed all the code. So that's what we're doing at that time. That absolute would set that element with reference to the parent or top left corner of the web page.
Brand new curiosity. What if the parent were to have a reference of absolute?
If the parent has a reference of absolute, then it will take its reference from the top corner of the page because it's no reference in that
from the
parent.
parent.
Sorry?
So if he has a position parent that is absolute, the grandchild will still not take from the parent. He will still go to us. So it must be relative.
It must be relative.
That's the condition. The relative must be satisfied by the parents.
Correct. Before he can take his reference from that parent, from that relative parent. Otherwise, it will always go to the body or to the web page. Any other question, guys? Some people are super silent in class. Hopefully you are getting it. It's not that you're fully confused. If you're confused, this is the time to ask questions. Sorry for the back and forth on Z index. Sometimes rules counteract each other, but we figured it out, right? So you cannot apply Z index on nested elements because the nesting will take precedence over the Z index. That's what we figured out from that one. So that's all we have for the positioning. So we've talked about static, talked about relative, where it takes its origin from the web page. Talked about absolute, it goes to the parent first. When there's no parent, a position parent, it takes its origin from the web page. Fixed will always take its origin from the web page, regardless of whether it has parent or not. And it doesn't scroll with the page. So wherever you position that element as fixed, that's where it will be. Okay, good. Why did I even use this? So look at this, guy. This is what I was looking for all along. Oh my goodness. So this is fixed position, right? When I scroll this page, you see that green is still there. It does not move with the page. That's what I'm trying to show you.
Try the other ones.
Those other ones would move with the page.
Right.
Relative would move with the page.
Okay. And
absolute would move with the page.
Oh.
Fixed would never move with the page. It will stay.
Right.
That's what I was looking for. Do we got
Can
it?
you just imagine? Your Sokoto is inside your Sokoto.
Is that my Chokoto? Imagine now. So this is different between fixed and all of them. That element would be in that spot. Whether you scroll up,
I like that.
scroll down.
I like that guy.
Yeah. So there are situations where you need to place an element on your page. The user will be looking at it gidigba. It will not move. Whether they scroll to Sokoto or scroll to Kafanchan, that element will be there. That's a good example of when we use fixed position. Okay.
So if you use if you had like a header kind of thing on a page and you wanted it to have like a freeze pane, like just top there, you would within your CSS, if you have a div on that page that says CSS.
Yeah, I was expecting that question. That's exactly what we use for tabs, for I know what Daniel is saying. Okay, so for Amazon website, is scroll with their top tab bar, it scrolls with the page. For some website, you want to make this tab bar fixed. So even when you scroll the page, the tab bar will still be there. That's what you fixed it to the top. So in that case, we always use position fixed, top 0. If you like, scroll the page from today to tomorrow, it will not move. It will be there. Yes. So that's that for that question, that's right. We use that to have a tab bar. If you don't want your tab bar page to scroll, that's what we use. I have it on my, I do have it on my sample website that I showed you guys that day, latifaziz.dev. You can see the tab bar here. No matter how much I scroll, it is still there. The only thing is the color changes. You can see it. So you can see all these things: home, about, work, skills, testimonial. They are all there. They never move. So that's a typical example because it's fixed to the top. So you set the position fixed and top 0, and you just stick there. There are other properties that we use for tab bar anyway, not just position fixed. We use position sticky. So there's another word called sticky. If you set sticky, it will remain there. Sorry, guys.
Okay, Latas, can
Yeah.
you go back to that where we have that your picture? So the circle on the background. What's your hair?
Yeah.
Is that one just a normal design or?
That's CSS.
Okay.
I did that. So that's CSS. You set transition property. So there's something called transition property on CSS. If you want things to move, you can also set animation property. You can set the time you want that effect to take place. If you want it to go from 0 size to size 100, like the circle is coming from a smaller size to a bigger size, you set it from 0 to a final size you want it to attain and put the time. You want this to happen in 3 seconds. So it goes from 0 up to the final size in 3 seconds. You can put it in any time you want, but there must be a property transition on that element. We'll get to those ones. We are not going to learn that as part of CSS. We will learn them as part of projects that we'll be doing, because there's a lot of things you are going to be doing that you only need basics to learn them. You have to Google them out and know how to use them. 1 minute, please. I just want to check. I got an email now that I want to quickly check. So, guys, let's take 5 minutes break, because what we're doing now is hands-on, and this is the hands-on.
5 minutes break at almost the end of the class,
because we have to do this positioning. It's important. The class is not ending yet. But
when is the ending, sir? So we can plan our day.
So we should go. We should do it right now.
Can you give us an assignment, sir?
Can
we have it as an assignment?
We should do it right now.
We have a project that we're going to work on.
Because my problem is there's no light.
Okay, there's no light.
Yeah, I'm using my phone and I cannot do anything on my phone while I'm using.
Okay, so it's fine. If you cannot do it, we are going to do it. If you cannot do it, listen to the instructions, take it in. You have to do both the classwork and this project as an assignment. I actually wanted us to do these 2 things in class. But again, we spend the whole time explaining, and there are a lot of disturbances in today's class as well. So right now we need to do this one, the first one, this one. And then I can give this other one as an assignment, even though I really want us to do it in class, but I will leave it as an assignment so that you guys can have enough time to research on it. But for this one, if you don't want to take the break, you want to do it quickly so that we can save time, I want all of you to look at the file I sent to you today. The file called 7.2 CSS positioning. This is the file. Is the one I've been writing jargons inside since. So what you all are going to do is, first, you need to delete that rubbish I wrote in there, the index1.html. We don't need it again. If you want to keep it, fine. Make sure it doesn't confuse you. You don't need that index1.html. What we need right now is index.html, this one. And you can see the goal here. So just a moment. So this is the goal, guys. This exercise is going to require a bit of thinking, mathematics plus and minus to achieve it, but it's simple. So right now, we have the code here, and we have a div called blue box. As you can see, we have a blue box. We have another div. I didn't ask, do you guys want to do a 5 minutes break, or we should continue and finish this exercise?
Finish. Let's continue and finish.
I don't mind a break though, but if it's just
let's continue.
How confident are we right now to do an exercise, guys? How confident are we to do an exercise? Confidence on the level of on a scale of 1 to 10. How confident?
5 minutes break now. I can go and work on my confidence.
Off.
Let's take 5 minutes break to work up the confidence, guys. This exercise needs a little bit of thinking. Let's not rush it. It needs a little bit of thinking and getting it, but it's easy. I'm going to do some explanations before you start, and it will become easy. But let's take 5 minutes. I beg. Just sip water. Take some cold water, and take juice if you have juice. Then we will.
Make I position like Oga Babajide. May we dey look instructor together.
5 minutes are started, guys. Where is my Pomodoro? With the exercise. So in this exercise, we have 2 major divs. You can see that we have a blue box, which is the big box here. And also we have a red circle here. It's also a div, but the class name is called red circle. So you'll be allowed to use the class in this particular one. Now, the red circle is going inside of the blue box. And step out from here, my friend. I'm talking. You know that I'm on a video. You're just shouting. What did you do to your brother? Okay. I will listen to that later. I think it's a long story. Don't worry. I'll listen to that later. Sorry, guys. So, so the red circle is going to be inside of the blue box. Now, the blue box has a size. The size is 300 pixel by 500 pixel. And the red circle is positioned 250 pixel from the right, referencing the blue box, and 150 pixel from the top of the blue box as well.
Sorry, sir, can you come again with that line?
Okay. So the blue box, I've told you the size. The red circle is referencing the blue box and is positioned 250 pixel from the left of the blue box. And at the same time, is positioned 150 pixel from the top of the blue box. Now, the entire setup, which is both the blue and the red that is contained, they are set 200 pixel from the top of the web page and 200 pixel from the left of the web page. Now, the first clue I'm going to give you guys is, I have not told you how to draw a circle. I know some people here already did something like that I saw before, but for the sake of every other person who has not been able to draw a circle before, to draw a circle, you're going to write your class here. You don't need to touch the HTML part. This is the way it would be. All the code you're going to be writing is just basically CSS codes. Now, to be able to achieve this red, and that's what I want to show you. So I will help with the first 2 or 3 steps, and then you can finish up the rest. So what you are going to do is, first, you're going to grab the blue box, and the size of the blue box, like I said, so the width is going to be, you can start your own right now as well while I'm explaining. The width is going to be 500 pixel, while the height would be 300 pixel. And then you give it a background color of blue. So that's for so let's preview this page. So we have the blue right now showing up. The next one is going to be the red circle, the class called red circle. And that's where I'm actually going to show you how to draw a circle. So red circle, the width and the height is what we're going to get first. So right here, if you look at the red circle critically, by calculation, you will see that if the width of the whole of this is 500 and it's positioned 250 from the left, which means it's positioned halfway to the center of the blue circle, of the blue square, and you still have extra space. As a matter of fact, to make life easy for you guys, let's use, for the red circle, let's do 200 by 200. I don't want us to go through this because we're already out of time. The size is going to be 200 by 200 for this, because that's not where I'm going to actually. 200 by 200 pixel, and the background color will be red. All right, so if we look at this now, you see we have the blue and the red. Now, where I'm going to stop this clue that I'm giving you is... Sorry?
Looks, compared to the goal, the red looks big. So maybe we should do 150.
Don't worry. Well, by the time we make it a circle, it will form that size. It will go back to this side. So let's now make it a circle. Now, to make it a circle, there's something called border radius. I think we talked about that before, or maybe not. If we set the border radius on this red circle to be, let's say, 10 pixels, you will notice something. The edges become curved. So there's a radius applied to the border that kind of reshaped the edges of that box to be curvy. Now, if we make that, let's say 50 pixels, look at what happened. It increased, so we increased the radius and that increased the curvature. So in other words, you see that by the time you keep increasing it to at some point, it will turn that box to a circle. But instead of you to be guessing at what point it becomes circle, what we normally do is to use percentage. So if we set this to be 50%, it changes a whole square to circle. So regardless of the size of the square, once you set border radius to be 50%, it takes 50% of the width and height of that square and uses it as a radius, and that becomes a circle. It's just mathematics. But yeah, so this is all you need to do to achieve the red circle. Now, this is where I'm going to leave you guys' hands to be on your own. You are going to finish up this exercise to make it look exactly like this one. You can see it's sitting down inside of the blue. Part of it is showing below, and part of it is inside of that blue circle. Using all these calculations and all these numbers, I want us to work on this right now. And this is only going to take us 15 minutes, hopefully. So before you start, is there any question? Otherwise, you can start from here. And while I'm waiting to see if there's any question, I would set the timer to 15.
Sorry, sir. Please, sir, can you go back to the goal? I want to see something there. Let me know what's up.
You have the goal now. Don't you have it?
Yes, I know. I want to look at it inside the class.
All right. So let me show you. Let me even show you right here so that it's bigger.
150. Okay, sir. Is there are you giving us any restrictions, sort of?
Can you guys stop this, sir? What is it? Don't use the word sir.
Boy, I'm attacking you.
Oh, yeah, no. What's the question?
So, is there any strict this thing as regards the one that is coming out, or just random?
So I already gave you the distance from the top. By the time you set the distance from the top of this blue box, the one coming out will come out.
Oh, I understand. Right? Yeah, thank you. I understand.
Okay. Any other question, guys? Otherwise,
go back to the... Can you go back to the code, sir?
Yeah. We are here. Okay, so if there's no other question, before I go back to the code, I need to set up the timer. So we are starting at 15. And by 15, there's not going to be extra time. I'm going to jump in, and if you are able to finish it before then, please post it on assignments. Don't post the code. only post the results, the image. And you can send me the code if you want to. You don't even have to send me the code because we're going to look at it together. Just post the solution on the assignments page if you are done. Once time is up, we will all solve it together. All of us. So the time has started, guys. Thank you.
Okay, Latas, are there times when you take screenshots and you don't see it?
Eh?
Like sometimes I try to take a screenshot and I don't see where it goes for me to.
How do you take your screenshot? You don't see where it goes, right?
Yeah.
So by default, your screenshot should go to your desktop. Now, if you don't find it there, it means it's not set by default. You have to set it yourself by default. But first, you need to check on your desktop. I believe for every Mac, even for every Windows too, yeah. Once you do, either you use snippet tool or snipping tool on Windows, or you do normal screenshot on Mac, it should go to your desktop.
Yeah. Okay. I see it there.
Mm-hmm.
But it used to come like a small thing on the right, and then I can just go.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 minute.
Do it on my phone too.
Okay. Also, so I'm only waiting for Ariomo and Julius, I guess. Yeah. I've seen Bob, I've seen Alamin, I've seen Jaido, I've seen Jem, I've seen Majid. So Julius and Ariomo. Less than a minute to go. Who is going to volunteer to solve this problem for us, to help us solve this? And the person will share their screen and solve it step by step.
Class rep. Don't waste our time. Just get to that.
Oh yeah, class rep.
What if class rep want to nominate somebody?
Show leadership.
Leadership. You take the leadership role. You can be.
Part
You
of
lead from the front. Leadership. You lead from the front.
Are you leading from the front or from behind? Which one?
of leadership is to delegate.
So when you are class rep, if you agree to solve, when you are solving, you talk along, so you explain what your thought process is and why.
So I should delete all my shenanigans.
You can delete it and recode it. Okay,
Okay.
guys, if you're still working, you can stop or you can continue if you like. We are solving the exercise right now together. So Jem, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would allow you to share your screen in 1 minute. Yeah, you can share your screen now.
Please, what screen can you see?
I can see your VS Code live and direct. You can make it bigger a little bit so that you can help us.
Is it better? Is it better?
Yeah, it's okay.
Just one more step, please.
I don't stand my own phone.
Okay.
Is it good?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I have this guy. So this is our goal. I hope I don't laugh through the whole thing. So we have two divs that we're supposed to style. It's currently looking weird. I'm not sure why. Okay, so it looks like we have a container div with the blue box that has the class of blue box, and then we have another div inside that has the red circle. So to style, we can start with, I guess, the blue box, and it's a class something. So we start with the dot and say blue box, and have our whatever that is. And I would start with the background color and call it red. And then we have the goal. It says it should have a width of 500 pixels and a height of 300 pixels. So we're going to do width.
Change the color to blue, MJ.
Change the background color to blue.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry. Not supposed to be. It literally says blue box. So not sure why my brain read
Or
it.
you make it bother, or you make it bother blue.
Color blue. Are you sure you not use blue violet? What's your name?
Alami.
Alami. We're supposed to have a height of 300 pixels.
You need some carry on.
So we can go back to our shenanigans here. And so we have the box. Sorry. If I zoom it out, it will show but never mind. So then now that we can see the box, we go to the next one, which is the red circle. So we'll do class of red circle and do our curly braces. And then we're going to give it a background color of red. And it says on the goal it should have, well, it didn't say on the goal, but the class teacher said we should put it as 200. So we're going to go with the width of 200 pixels.
Height 200.
And we're going to go with height of 200 pixels. Now, he explained the radius thing. So it could be 50% will pretty much circulate, but it's that 50% is mostly, especially if you have a square, it's going to be relative to those width and so it's 200, 200. So if you use the 100 pixel, to give you the circle. But Tisha said we should use 50%. So that
you can use any. That's a good one. That's a good interpretation. 50% of 200 is 100. So nice.
That gives you 100. That gives you a circle. Now to position it, we have two boxes, and we're trying to position one to have like to have that. So I don't want to call it a margin, to be pushed down like a top down positioning.
Offset. Just the offsets.
You say what?
Offsets.
Offset.
Yes.
That looks like wrapper. So, but offset 200 pixel and 200 on the left side. So, and obviously we would need to use because we also have an inner box that we are positioning, right? So we know that this is something that's going to need to have something that has a parent as a relative positioning, right? So I would use the position thing as relative and then give it the top of
class rep. Sorry, just permit me to pause you at that point. So guys, Jem mentioned something right here. I was hoping to, because I was waiting for that point where she would mention that, and she actually did mention this. Who else sets the position to be relative at first pass? Like your first thought, you set it to relative for the blue box, or you set it to something else and then later you came back to change it to relative. I need to know because there's a reason for that.
Relative.
I chose relative.
You set it as relative.
I also did relative.
Yeah.
Okay, who can tell me the reason behind they are setting it as relative at first pass?
Because
I have
Okay, 1-1. Majid, tell us.
The blue is relative to the body.
The blue is relative to the body. That's your reason. Okay. Julius,
Yes.
what was your reason?
Yeah, the same thing, but I don't have any other parent.
Okay. Alamin, did you set as relative at first pass?
I actually did absolute first, but
Good.
later I was just trying my hands and
Now,
I
okay,
touched
okay.
relative to yes.
I needed to know that. Thank you. Jado, did you set as relative first or something else and you came back to change to relative
I didn't even put relative or any of those things.
on the blue
I
box?
just went. I didn't put on the blue box. I just put it on the red only.
Relative on the red? No, you
No,
didn't.
on the red I put it right on the red circle.
You
That's
did
where I used
absolute.
it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't have relative on the blue.
No, I didn't.
Okay, I'm gonna have to inspect your code.
I did it first
Yeah.
hand.
Bob, did
Yeah,
you did it
yeah,
first? What was your
relative
reason?
immediately.
What was your reason to do
Well,
position relative as
well,
first?
my reason for that is simply because I see the blue box as like a parent to the red box. So I'm like, okay, the red is the blue is relative to the red box. So
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Bob, that's Bob. Alamin, did you even do this assignment? I'm sorry, not Alamin. Ariomo, that's Ariomo. The name keeps.
Jem, now you cause this thing where God they do.
I fought for you now, Haba.
Ariomo,
Sir,
where you didn't submit your assignment, did you?
I did not because
Okay,
I didn't.
you're not able to finish it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so the reason why I stopped Jem at that point was that Jem actually addressed the reason correctly, but I needed to be sure if other people got it that way. I don't just want that pass to go. So only Bob actually aligned with Jem, and that's the exact reason why you should set it as relative at first pass. So the reason was because, not just because it is relative to the parents. Normally, I expect most people to set it as absolute at first or something else. It's fine. It's not like it's going to be a crime. But then the second thought of the fact that that is a parent to the red circle. And the red circle, for you to be able to position the red circle as a child of the blue box must be relative. That's what Jem mentioned. And that's what Bob also said just now. And that's exactly the correct reason. Not because it is is relative to the parents. It could actually be set as something else and it will still work. You can set that blue box to be fixed, it will still work. You can set it to be relative, it will still work. You can set it to be absolute, it will still work.
But why did it work then? Why did it work when I didn't put anything then?
Because that's why I said I have to.
Default or static, I guess.
That's why I said I have to inspect your code because
Might have been taking on the default static position. But as to why, remember that
Because I didn't put any.
said if you don't put the position,
I didn't put the position.
It takes default, but it takes the default static, but it only works if it has something else.
Exactly. Now, if you didn't put the position, when I told you that your red circle is far from the right, what did you do to push it back to the right?
What I did was to just change the position, the right pixel. I just increased the pixel.
Why would you increase when I already gave you a fixed pixel of 250?
No, I used the same pixel that you gave us, right?
What did you use before?
I used so what I used before was 250, so it was not staying there. Okay. And then so I changed it to 200, which was what you had, what you mentioned earlier, and it stayed there. So unless I'm putting it in the wrong place.
Wait. Can you please screenshot your code again?
I sent it to you now. I sent it to you.
This is the code you used?
Yeah, let me see. Let me see the one I used.
So what I see here is that your red circle has 200 by 200 pixel size, which is correct.
Okay.
You set top to 150.
Yeah.
And you set right to 250.
No, so right, I changed it to 200 and then it stayed.
So why would you change it? Because I want 250, not 200. So that's why you have tampered with the code. You're not following the instructions because you did not use relative on the blue box.
Okay.
So if you are put relative on the blue box, yes, that red circle would position itself properly at 250 pixels.
Okay.
You get? So
I get what you mean.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to stress out here, guys, which I want you to know is that sometimes when you're writing your code, you also need to think like 1 or 2 steps ahead of yourself. Otherwise, you may have to go and then come back to change things. But because, as according to Jem, she thought ahead already that, okay, this is going to be a parent to another element, which is going to be absolute, then this has to be relative. That's what I want to stress out. Thank you, Jem. Continue.
Okay. So we have our top to be 150 sorry, 200 by 200, 200 pixels. And the left to be 200 pixels. So that settles that for the blue. And if we come back here, we see it has shifted. Because it's zoomed out, I'll zoom it in later. So we'll see the actual results. And then for the left, for the red circle, we then have an absolute positioning. This one doesn't like stressing me, sharp. Position, absolute. And then we have supposed to be top as 150, if I'm remembering correctly. And we have left as 250.
Semicolon.
Okay, I believe that concludes it. And if we zoom out, we can see that a bit more clearly.
Who disagrees with Jen's solution, or they have a better solution to this exercise?
No disagreement, perfect.
Are you speaking on behalf of everybody or on behalf of yourself?
I'm speaking for myself.
Okay, I need somebody who disagrees. I'm not asking who agrees. I said who disagrees.
Oh, who disagrees? Oh. Too much when you go, they affect me.
I know. you stay too long in China. We know what.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have it.
Yes, I have it. Okay. So yeah, that's perfect.
Wait, sir. Wait, sir. I listen to you, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Now, from the solution everybody has posted, and when you're trying to check their codes and all, Oga Julius, Baba Jaido talks say he used something else, and the end result was the same as yours, though the code was different. Now, but you said the code is being different, but then the end result happens to be the same. Why is that, sir?
All right, good question.
Ogalata, sorry, my question is just in the same direction, because for that the blue box, I actually used absolute.
Don't want to sleep.
And we have this result too. Yeah, I sent you my code immediately, and so I want to know, is there any reason why it actually worked?
Okay, so let me look at your code before I answer Anyomo's question.
But are you Alabi?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Okay. If you set that one to absolute, I think it's the same thing as the blue box. Okay. Okay, you said the blue box as absolute, Abi?
Yes, sir.
So he said absolute. Alamin said absolute.
You want to sleep. That's what you want to do. You want to sleep.
And
you want to start looking for trouble.
Circle. That's not correct. So it still boils down to the same question that Anyomo asked, but there's a little bit of difference anyways. So the difference is this. So Bob, you also said blue box relative and red circle. Yeah, this one is correct. Okay, so first I will address the Gide's solution. Gide's solution is 100% wrong. The reason is this. You are not the one that determines the size and position of things on your website because you are building for a client. So the client already gave you their specification, what they want. And the client says, Jen, can you show the goal, please, since you are the one sharing the screen right now. The client says he wants the red circle to be at position 250 pixels from the left of the blue circle. and you go ahead and do 200 pixels, the end does not justify the means. You must do exactly what the client wants. You know why? Because right now we are building something very small. We are only building two divs. On a real world project, it's going to mess up the code. Trust me, there's no way you can escape it, because maybe there's something else after the red circle. Maybe there are other things before the red circle that will take exactly that 250 pixel. By the time you reduce 250 pixels to 200, the items or the element that were supposed to live in that space cannot reduce themselves to 200. So something would look odd that side. It's okay to go away with it now, because this left is free, the right is free, the top is free, the bottom is free. But in a real world, just put your mind on Amazon websites. You want to stack other items before the red circle, and those items must occupy the 250 pixel space exactly. And you have reduced it to 200 because you want to achieve the goal for red circle. So what happened to the other items that need 250 space? Just like you want to park two cars in a garage that can only take one car. It's not going to be possible. So that's why that is wrong. So it's not supposed to change the pixel. You would rather look for a way to achieve that solution using the same 250 pixel. That answers that. For the person that used absolute, you are saying that the two elements are referencing the body. That's what that means. Because they cannot find a relative. So for the blue box is fine. For the red circle, it needs a relative parent to work with. Now, it looks exactly the way it should, again, because we are dealing with a very simple and tiny code. On a real case scenario, something would have been displaced around. Let's say there are other items before the blue box, on the left to the blue box, somewhere else on the page. A lot of things would have been moved around, because if there is any element that has the word relative, the position relative on them, you will not find that red circle living in that place. It will go and reference that anything that bears relative, because what it's looking for is relative. The moment it finds a relative element on that page, it will run to it. So it will not be in this position where you have it. You're only lucky to have it at that position right now, because there's no other element on the page that answers relative. So for now, it fixes. Once the page becomes bigger, it moves. It's going to shift, because it is working relative to either the page or any other parent or grandparent that has the word relative on them. That's why that is not correct as well. So in summary, Ariomo, in coding, the end does not justify the means. And as a matter of fact, not just in coding, even as an architect, and I know Julie can bear me witness, if a client of yours says he wants 5 rooms in his house, and he wants 2 rooms adjacent to one another, but you have mistakenly made a room bigger than the other, you now push it a little bit away, and you say, Shebi, you shall want the room to face one another, and they are facing opposite now. The client will tell you, no, I want the door to be facing one another. So whether you have reduced or increased the size, they must face. So that's what it means here. So you must follow the instructions, you must follow the guidelines or the requirements of the client to achieve your goal, not the end product that matters. If that answers your question, Ariomo.
Yes, sir.
And Alamin, do I answer your question as well?
Yes, sir, I'm clear.
Good. So thanks, Jen. You can stop sharing, and let me give you guys the take home that you can use as dinner today. So share screen. All right, so the take home, guys, the take home. Where's the presentation? So the take home is going to be a flag project that you guys are going to build. You're going to make the flag of Laos with CSS. Something I want you guys to know is that CSS is a very powerful scripting language. It's used to do a lot of things, including this image you're looking at here. So if you're familiar with oil painting, somebody would think this image was painted, was drawn, or maybe with Adobe or whatever they used to draw Photoshop. It's not. It's actually drawn with CSS. And I can prove it to you guys. So right here, this is the website of this lady. Her name is Diana Adrian. She's a very good CSS developer. So she drew herself with CSS. And how would you know that? If I inspect this page, this drawing, you can see that even the strands of the hair were drawn with CSS. So you can see as I move my mouse around, it's positioning the highlighter at different parts of it. So this is drawn with thousands of divs. She took her time to do all this. You can see there are class hair H14, class hair H15. As I move my mouse, even the ear was drawn with everything on this page. The clothes, the lace were all drawn with CSS. I'm showing you guys this to know how powerful this thing can be and how people have used it so far in developing and in other aspects of life. Now, that's for oil paints. If you're familiar with The Simpsons, all of this, I don't know what to call them, whether emojis or whatever, they are all drawn with CSS as well. And if you don't believe that, you can head over. I can send you guys the link to this website. You can head over. So for the first one, I'm putting it in the general channel. That's the link to Adrian's site. And the second one, The Simpsons, you can also check that as well if you want to. All of these are drawn with CSS. So if you can actually preview these ones to see how the CSS was done on them. So the first one that I clicked on, this is the CSS on GitHub. So somebody took their time to draw everything you see there with CSS code. And like I told you guys before, in a real world scenario, you can have lines of code drawn into thousands. Like this one, because it's just a simple drawing, is 583 lines of CSS code. So you can imagine if you have to do a project where you have 583 lines of CSS code, you run out of class name, you run out of everything. So you need to know all those specificity and all those things to be able to work with them. Now, that is something that I want you guys to be aware of, how they work. So when you see anything, maybe when you're walking, you're driving, you're reading, you're looking at something on the internet, you start thinking this can actually be done with CSS. If you want to dabble into it, dabble into it. But trust me, this one, the Adrian's picture, is mind-blowing. When I saw it the first time, I was like, this is not possible. But then I realized it's actually possible. So that's just the story. What I want you guys to do for me is to draw this flag of Laos. And if you open your files, your folder that I sent to you today, you would see 7.3 CSS flag projects, and it is here. CSS flag projects. So this is the goal. Now, instructions. Guys, please listen to these instructions critically. Listen to the instructions critically. Don't change what you're not supposed to change. There is a reason for that. So index.html. So now let me move the goal to that side. You all are not going to add anything to my HTML code. Please don't. You may be moved at some point when things become tough to add a class or to add an ID or to do something else. Don't do it in this my HTML code. I want it exactly the way it is. So if you need to target anything, target them using your CSS selectors, combinations, and all that to target them. Now, there are some instructions here. Important. I said, do not change my HTML. Don't add any class, IDs, elements. Use what you know about combining selectors and CSS specificity instead. So there are two hints here. Hint one is that the flag is 900 by 600 pixel, and the circle is 200 pixel by 200 pixel. So the flag, the entire flag is 900 by 600. So 900 width, 600 height. The circle is 200 pixel by 200 pixel, this circle. Now, you can use CSS inspection to get the colors from this website. So if you want to get the exact color, because it's not just going to be red and blue. These are different variants of red and blue colors. So if you need to use the exact color, I have a website here for you. In that instruction, just press your control if you're on Windows, press your command if you're on Mac, hold it down, and then click on that web link. When you do that, this is what you're going to see. When you do that, this is what you're going to see. So you're going to see an empty flag that relates to that. Trust me, you're not going to be able to see the CSS. If you think, well, he has given us link to see the CSS, you won't see it. It's hidden. Why I want you to go here is that for you to get the exact color.
You don't teach us how to hide code. You know wahala.
So for you to be able to grab the exact color is why I brought you here. So if you click on that link like that, it will open this for you. Now go to inspect. On your inspect, if you have your pesticide working, you click on this arrow here. So you see element, console, and there's an arrow. If you click on that arrow, you will see this drop down. On that drop down, you are going to click on CSS overview. Once you click CSS overview, it will bring you to this page. Then you can click capture overview and scroll down. This is the color. I'm not going to send you this color code. I want you to go and inspect this yourself and grab it. That's why I'm going through this explanation, because somebody will be like, Leto, why can't you just send us this color code? No, I want you to go and inspect it and grab that color code. So this is the color code for the blue. This is the color code for the red variant. So those two colors you are going to need in building this flag. Now, if you're able to grab that color and you already have the information about the size of the flag, you have all you need to write your CSS code and build this flag. Now, an unpaid hint that I'm going to give you, the one you don't have to pay me for, is that this is going to be, you can see that the size of this big flag, the blue flag is like half of the size of the red flag. And it is positioned exactly at about 25% of the size of the red flag from the top. So it's like if you divide this red flag into 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The blue is taking the 2 centerpiece of that red flag. In other words, the size of the top here is going to be the size of the bottom space here when you have the blue exactly at the center of it. That's hint that you don't have to pay me for. The other hint, you don't.
Buku kilos. Carry on. Do your own.
So, don't add padding for me. Don't add margin. Don't add all those things. Just use what we learned from the previous class, last class, and today's class to do this work. It's going to be few, not so much code you need to write. Just need to think through it. It needs a little bit of thinking. I actually wanted us to do this in class today by my plan, but man proposed, God disposes. So it becomes an assignment. So guys, any question before we say goodbye for today?
Can we choose not to do it?
Well, if you choose not to do it, what will happen is that...
Sorry, I was just joking.
The question, I can answer the question.
Answer.
Should you choose not to do it, what will happen is that I am going to compulsorily this time give you another assignment.
What?
So that flag, the flag idea came from this website. The website is built by somebody called Lascaridis. Michael Lascaridis is a good CSS developer as well. He tried to show his skill by building a lot of flags in the world. And he now left this website for us in case we want to also try our skill. So it starts from the most simple flags to the most difficult flags. And if anybody feels like they don't want to do the Laos flag, which is at this level of difficulty, where is that difficulty level?
We consider ourselves correctly threatened. There's no this.
So this is Laos. This is Laos, number 43.
Line of action.
Number 43. So if somebody doesn't want to do this, that's okay by me. I'm not angry. I just want the person to compulsorily go and do the last one, which is the most difficult flag to build in this list, and that's the flag of Serbia. So you will be doing yourself good by doing the flag of Laos.
Teacher, why we no start with our home country? I dey see
So-
Nigeria for top now.
Well, the reason why I'm going to share this link with you is that after you must have built my assignment for me, my project for me, you can, if you have some time to play around with stuff, head over to this website. I just put it on general channel, Lascarides website. Start with the first flag and start building. You get to build Nigeria flag as well using this thing we learned last class and to this class. I'm sure by the time you get to the final level, you can beat your chest like, I'm a CSS developer. Trust me. And you can. I trust you guys.
There's no need to beat chest. There's no need to beat our chest. We are okay.
Make chest, no dey pay me. I get cough.
Yeah, not King Kong.
And I mean, would you not like to build this Switzerland flag?
The Switzerland flag is not even that bad. There is one I saw. This is it Palaus abi something.
Yeah, now that's like me.
You don't pass on Ghana.
What of this one? What of this one?
No,
Tanzania.
are you seeing Congo there?
Where is Congo?
Go back, go down. No, just on the right of the one you were showing us. That's
Imagine.
Congo.
It's like this, that you now have a star. So how do you draw that star?
Google kilos.
But
That Visinko.
When graphics
Are
designer
you
no
saying
finish
it's
for this
possible
world.
for that loud for that one that has
That's
mouse
Qatar.
like ring? Are you telling me we won't use other features
No,
other than this
It's all-
basic one we
it's all
just used?
CSS.
Like because
look
you have
at
to have triangle in multiple places and doing grid and something. Are you sure it won't go more than that?
Are you seeing
Well-
Qatar? First of all, before you look at triangle.
Which
How
one?
are you supposed to do that zigzag?
Which
Qatar.
one?
69.
Qatar? This one? Yes, you
Which
can. Yes, you can. So there's a CSS feature called clip. CSS property called clip. You're gonna use clip to draw those zigzag, those triangle stuff. You're gonna use clip, and you would have to Google that to be able to do it. What of the one that has the moon, the flag of Pakistan, the moon and the star? Oh shit, buddy. Guys,
How about is busy?
take it as challenge. Go on.
They're going to Mokola, don't worry with challenge.
Please, number 80 is what? What is challenge?
Number 8.
Challenge is
Eight.
never know.
What is really the problem?
This one.
80 now. China is a joking stuff.
80. So choose.
What's the problem? Is he carrying? He just carry line, they go everywhere. It's
It's all
okay.